All right, the time being 6 o'clock, we'll go ahead and bring this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Don.
Yes.
Here.
Here.
Yes.
Here. Do any of the commissioners have a financial conflict of interest?
No.
No.
None. Non-financial conflict of interest?
No.
None.
No.
None. All right, first item on the agenda is approval of the February 5th, 2019 commission meeting. What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. There is one change on item number 7. Sheriff cannot make it tonight. That'll be next meeting, so delete that off. Is there any other additions or corrections to the agenda this time?
I had 3 or 4 items that I'd like to bring up for discussion.
Do you want to bring them up and commissioner updates? How many do you have?
4.
4? How long is it going to
I'll
take?
put
Because we got a pretty big agenda tonight.
I'll put them on the now. I've gotten a lot of calls this past week on things that have gone on, and I would like to have, as kind of a follow-up from our last meeting when the county attorney talked to us on the position that he had taken on the action requiring the CUP on the Class F livestock facilities. I'd like the county attorney to explain that again. If he doesn't show up, I understand.
He's not going to be here. He's not going to be here.
But he said he was going to have somebody else come in his place. Maybe that guy can do it. If not, I'd like it on the next agenda. And I've had several calls from people that said that they've been banned from entering the county courthouse and public facilities, and I don't know what that's about, and I'd like to wonder what authority and process was followed in doing that. And I'd like to know what our plan is for working with planning and zoning if Pat is on an extended absence. And the last one is, I've heard that we have dismissed some pending lawsuits, and I was wondering under what authority that was done, and if there's any conflicts of interest involved in that process. I would point out that to date, I'm not sure, I can't think of a single lawsuit that the county has lost. So just wanted to know that information.
Can the mics be turned up a little bit or not?
Turn it on, maybe it'll help.
Okay, thank you.
Don, a lot of these seem like they're going to require attorney, and I don't know if he's going to be here for that. I never coordinated that ahead of time. So I think it'd be best if we put these on for the next meeting, if you want them as an agenda item. Unless the other commissioners have something.
Some of those,
I think we can discuss.
yeah. I'd like to know if people are being banned, I guess.
I would like to know that too.
Yes.
Some of the lawsuit things we might, well, like,
I've had calls from 7 people that said that they've been contacted and banned from contacting and talking with people in the planning and zoning department and coming into the building, coming into their office.
I can't hear you either.
That's news to me. Why don't you bring that up on 15A, banned personnel. And I think the CUP and the other ones should wait till we have an attorney with the lawsuits, because I don't know if he's going to be here at that time. Are you satisfied with that?
Yeah, if we can get at it. If we can get at it, then, and it doesn't affect county business.
Okay.
I am disappointed that we don't have an attorney here, when we were in executive session, Rob said he would have one of the other assistant attorneys here.
Eric is supposed to be coming.
All right, can I get or anything else you'd like to add, Don?
No.
Can I get a motion? I'd entertain a motion on the changes to the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Next item on the agenda, approval of the February 5th, 2019 Commission minutes. I did have one thing I'd like to add. I'd like to add that there were a quorum of planning commissioners at this meeting. Myself and Joe and Eric Konings and Jeff Goodall and Zane Williams were all present at that meeting, at the last county commission meeting. Everyone okay? Anything else you'd like to add? Entertain a motion for the minutes.
Move approval of the minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item on the agenda, item number 3, public comment. Is there anybody at this time who'd care to make a public comment? Time would be, you have 3 minutes. Come on up, introduce yourself.
John Gunderson, Irene, South Dakota. One of the benefits of growing up as a good Lutheran boy, especially in this century or the last one, you get exposed to a man by the name of Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And from there, led me to a man by the name of Martin Niemöller. His birthday is next week, or would have been. He was born in 1892 and died in 1984. And he was all at Sachsenhausen and Dachau from 1937 to 1945. He was part of the Free Lutheran Church movement until they were all thrown in the concentration camps. And after the war, when he had been freed, he survived. He wrote something which I learned in my youth and have had somewhere stuck in my office ever since. And I'd like to read that tonight. First they came for the communists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a communist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the incurable, and I did not speak out, because I was not incurable. And then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. The title of that is, They Thought They Were Free. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else at this time who'd care to make a public comment? Going once, going twice. All right, close the public comment session. Next item on the agenda, item number 4, malt beverage license transfer. Is Janine White here? Come on up, ma'am. Come on up, introduce yourself, and tell us about your application, please.
My name is Jeannie White. I just purchased the Mom Pa's C-store in Gayville. And not much to say.
Well, you'd like to buy a retail malt beverage license, right?
Yes, yes. There's currently one at the convenience store there.
It's just a transfer. from
It's,
one unit to another.
right, right, and we just want to transfer it.
I don't have any questions on this. It was fairly straightforward.
Okay.
I need a motion.
I move approval of the transfer.
Second.
Motion and a second for the discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Don,
Yes.
Sherry,
Yes. I think this is going to be a challenge, but
Gary,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan.
Yes. Motion passed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
Thanks.
between Don and Dan and Gary and Sherry, Joe's the only one that's going to get it all straight, I think, so.
Next item on the agenda, item number 5, claims.
See, we paid a lot of liability insurance claims this pay period.
What
The-
page
the
are you on,
insurance?
Don? Oh, yep, I see that.
It's just, yeah, it's for all the departments.
Yeah.
Yep.
I move approval of payment of the claims.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Ditch board. Can we go in? Ditch board? Okay.
And those are basically the same report,
Which one is that? Claims,
and then the auditor.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is the auditor and treasurer report
And pooled cash.
and pooled cash report, all three of them. Are any questions on any of these items? I see the special fund, is that with the red on it? Is that,
No, that's just, there was a voided check and it was,
okay. Got it. Entertain a motion on auditor, treasurer report, and pooled cash.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
and then that in my report.
Next item on the agenda is the mental illness report.
Patty, it seems to me like in the past, we've gotten a report on some counties that haven't paid their bill. Do we still get that list?
I can get it for you next report, the next month's report.
Believe it or not, there's several counties that don't pay their bill.
Have to send them a reminder.
How much money are we talking about?
I probably can't tell you without looking at that list. It's, I'd say a few counties and generally, we're talking about most of these bills run from $120 to top one I see is Minnehaha at $1,160. So the total was, of the ones that paid were $6,500. And it's roughly 3, 6, 9, maybe 22 or 23 on the list that paid. You need approval?
Yeah.
Move approval of the income report.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item on the agenda is the ditch board.
And I need a motion to go into the ditch board.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are now in ditch board.
And I just need approval of the two bills for, one for Turkey Valley ditch and the one for Yankton ditch.
Move approval
For both?
for both.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
And now motion to get out of the ditch into regular session.
Entertain a motion to come out of ditch board and go back into regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discuss.
Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are now back into regular session. Next item on the agenda, the department reports. Is Mr. Hawkins here? Come on up, sir. If you want to give us your report on ambulance department, please.
Hey, do I trust you back there? What's that? Okay. Good evening.
Evening.
I'm just here to give you a little bit of report on the ambulance department. The report is in front of you there. Lots of different numbers, lots of different things that you can look at. And one of the questions I'm going to have is for you is what do you want to see on the report? I have lots of different numbers, you know what I mean? So it's all kind of up to you what you guys want to see. So currently, we are about $2.62 of last month per resident, and operating costs are December or January receipts were a little on the low side. Now it has a lot to do with, although it's the lowest we've ever had in this month, but it has a lot to do with the holidays. The insurance companies aren't kicking back. We're already at about $38,000 this month alone in revenue, so it's starting to come back around.
We usually run around 60 or 70% of the build out amount.
Yes. Last year we were about 70%. That's counting the 2 vehicles that we purchased. If you take those out, it would have been probably closer to 85% of what we collected would have paid for our bills. So we did 166 runs last month, which is a little low for our overall kind of 3-year average for January, but we're making it up. February is making it up. Unfortunately, it's making it up. So lots of calls already this month. So what can I explain to you on here? What is it that you'd like to see different? It might be too early. You guys are more than welcome to come to my office and we can chat about all these different numbers and what they mean a little more.
Probably like to just for my own curiosity, see what which ones are billed to Yankton County residents and which ones would be out of. I see there's transfers, but anything else?
That's a number I don't have. You stumped me. I wasn't tracking that. Darn, I thought I had them all covered, but no, I didn't. That's a good question. I can try to do that on residence address, on zip codes. I probably could do that. Just do a quick report on zip codes.
We get a lot of people visiting the county, let's say.
Right. And you have a lot, and a lot of the patients, even that we transfer from Sacred Heart might not be Yankton County residents as well. So
I'll stop in someday.
Okay. Do you want to see that on a regular part of the report, or you just want to? I'll just get that number and I can email it to you.
That'd be fine. Yeah.
Okay, email it to you guys. Just kind of for the 2018, good enough.
Yeah.
I can just do. I think I can do a report. Have Brenda do a report. I should say have Brenda do a report. I'm not like I'm going to do it. So, yes, did I have it? Someone.
At the top of the report, you have a year-to-date cost per Yankton County resident at $2.62. What was last year?
Overall, last year was probably around, I think it was around $15, 15, I think. That's overall, that's the end of the year part. It kind of goes up as our year, as the expenditures kind of go up. It also was high because of the 2 vehicle purchases as well.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So if you take those out, then that kind of drops it down just a little bit. But our average is about 12 every year, 12 to 15, something like that per resident. So
And then on the very last page, it says, write-off need commission approve.
Okay,
Something or other.
The adjustments on the second page, it says the adjustments, okay? In that adjustments is $51,275 and change. That is the adjustments between what we billed and what the insurance is paid. So that adjustment has to be made, and you guys have to approve that adjustment, okay? Then on the back page is, for instance, let's see, the first one is the Yankton County Coroner. So when we transport a patient for the coroner's office, we generate a fictional bill, just money, and we don't bill the sheriff's department nor the county coroner, although we do generate a bill for that, and that has to be adjusted off, if you will.
Gotcha.
And that's what those need approvals are.
Okay, so by us approving this, we're approving that.
Right. Or you can make
Okay.
Jim and Mike pay their fair share.
So
No,
I
because
just
it's,
wanted
yeah,
to make
and
sure I
it
knew
would
what
be
I was
kind
approving.
of, you know, it's just
Okay.
one county department giving money to another county department doesn't make a lot of sense. So
All right.
that's what that is. And then that other adjustment is the insurance stuff.
Okay.
Any other questions from any of the commissioners?
How's that new pickup?
What's that?
How's that new pickup work?
Going good. It's running good. It is.
It gets along with the other Chevys and the Fords.
What's that?
It gets along with the Chevys.
They won't let it in the bay. I have to fight them to get it in. Those Chevys won't let that Dodge in the bay, so.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
No.
Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate the service you do to the county. Next item on the agenda, Register of Deeds Department report. Brian? Welcome.
Thank you. This is just a standard kind of monthly report of statistics, pretty cut and dried, nothing out of the ordinary. We had about a $20,000 month, which isn't too bad for January. Take that. January and February, like a lot of departments, things are a little slower. Our goal always is to average about $25,000 a month, but like I say, for January, that's acceptable. Everything else is pretty much right in line with our norms. You have any questions?
No, pretty straightforward.
Not too interesting.
Very interesting. There's all kinds of stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any questions unless
Okay.
you had anything
Nope.
else, I guess.
Any questions from any of the commissioners?
No.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank
Motion
you.
passed. Thank you,
you.
Brian. Next item on the agenda, Veteran Service Office report. Welcome.
Good evening. This is pretty straightforward. These are the contacts that I have throughout the month. I've kind of separated them in regards to what kind of revenues generated. Disability compensation is probably our biggest category that I deal with throughout the month, and I get a variety of calls in regards to basic inquiries into specifics into an individual veteran's claim. DIC, for those of you who don't understand the initials there, alphabet soup kind of with the VA, is Dependents Indemnity Compensation. That's a benefit that goes to the spouse or minor children of a veteran who dies from a condition that he contracted while he was in the military. Then Veterans Pension, that's a economic benefit that goes towards veterans who are trying to kind of keep their head above water in maintaining their medical treatment, or maybe nursing home care. It is based on resources. If a veteran, the VA expects the veteran to expend his resources first, and then they will assist later on. Same thing with widow's pension. That's a pension that goes to widows of veterans who served during a time of war. Both the veterans pension and the widow's pension goes to veterans who served during a time of war. And same thing as far as it's an economic benefit for somebody who needs a little help to keep their head above water, that kind of thing. Burial benefits, that's self-explanatory. The VA assists some veterans in their funeral benefits if they were serving during a time of war, and in some cases, if the veteran's death is been as a result of a service connection, then the VA pays a higher benefit to that veteran. But basically, it's pretty simple stuff here. The van scheduling is unique because we have 3 seats in our van, and I get a lot of calls to use it. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we go up to Sioux Falls and we get guys and gals up there for their medical appointments, and we've got people that change their medical appointments. It's probably why I have more white hair now than I did when I started the job, but we get through it. And my total contacts are pretty much everything that I've totaled up, through the course of the month. And that can range. Last year in January, we were about maybe 60 contacts higher, and that was mostly due to some veterans legislation that I'm a member of the South Dakota Association of County and Tribal Veterans Service Officers organization, and I was in on a couple of deals that we were trying to push through the legislature then, and I probably had a substantial more contacts a year ago this time than this year. We haven't seen much legislation that we pursued, and that's probably the big difference between this year and last year if you're comparing apples to apples. If there's anything else,
Mike, that pension for the widows during the time of war,
yep.
Is that a flat rate, or is it adjustable, or is it based on something?
It's dependent on the formula that the VA uses. They have an actuary that goes through a veteran or his widow's financial resources, what assets they have, and it is as varied as the veteran. I've never seen 2 come out the same, and that's another white-haired thing too.
It's like CRSC, right?
Yes.
That's another.
So,
do you help veterans get health care at the VA, or are you just transporting them up there?
We help transport them if they need a ride. Some of the elderly veterans don't like to drive in Sioux Falls, and we have right now we're up to about 10 or 11 great volunteers that make me look real good, because they get them up there and they do it on their own time. They give a day to our veterans, and I mean they're leaving like at anywhere from 5:45 in the morning and they don't get home sometimes back until 5 in the evening. So it can be a 12-hour day sometimes. But generally, most of our rides start out somewhere between 6:30 and 7:30 in the morning, and we have people back by about 3:30 in the afternoon. So it's a long day.
Yeah. Are you still
but
looking
as far
for
as
volunteers for the van?
Oh, we can always
Volunteers
use volunteers for the van. They have to go through a protocol through the VA.
Okay.
And we would gladly accept anybody else that wants to help us out. I do help veterans in filing for compensation and help them navigate through the paperwork to get that taken care of. And that is as an individual as the veteran too, because I have some claims that go through The fastest I've seen come through is 118 days. That's almost 4 months. And then I've had some that have taken a year. And it drives you buggy. But you just got to put the pressure on and sometimes light a fire under somebody.
Any other questions for Mr. McDonald? Well, we really appreciate everything you do for the veterans in our community, so.
Okay.
Anything else for us, or entertain a motion to approve the report?
I move approval of the report.
Second.
Second, motion and a second, further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passed. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Next item on the agenda, Drainage Board. Yes.
I move to go into Drainage Board.
Second.
Motion and a second, further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we are now in Drainage Board. Mr. Knutson here? Yep. Come on up, sir, and tell us about your project.
Good evening, Wayne Knutson, Vollen. I have a tiling project in Marindal Township that I've been working on a while. It's gone through the Drainage Board and all approved. I don't know what else to say.
Look pretty straightforward. You're starting and stopping on your own property?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure from the map because there's an easement on there, but.
Right, and that's just to run over.
Sure, but you're actually outletting on your own.
Right.
Land.
Yep.
Denise, do you have a copy of it in front of you?
I do.
Section 309, I think it's page 4, number 2. There is, it says 5, parentheses 6. I think the 5 should be 6 because it's all 6-inch tile. That was the only error, and I noted it on the minutes for the drainage meeting for next week.
I'm not quite sure what you're referring to, the findings of fact.
Yes.
Page what?
I think it's page 4, section 3.09. Item number 2, the underlined portion says the drainage outlet 5,
Oh, and then-
6. So I think that 5 should just be 6. It's just a typo. But that was the only thing I noted in there as we went through. Otherwise, it was unanimous in the drainage board, so.
Drainage Commission.
Drainage Commission,
You are
sorry.
Drainage
We're
Board.
the board, I'm sorry, thank you so much.
Denise, did you have anything you wanted to add to this, or did he cover it?
I think why don't you or Denise read the legal, I suppose, just for, so it's on record.
Would you care to read that, Denise?
You do? Okay, I have that. Here, the property is legally described as the south half, the southwest fourth, except lot R5, southwest quarter, and except lot R6, southeast quarter, southwest quarter, and east 3/4 of the south half and the southeast quarter, except lot R7, southwest quarter, and except lot R8, southeast quarter, section 23, township 95 north, and range 54W, and south 145 foot, west 11,220 foot, and east 630 foot of the west 1,750 foot, south 360, north half southwest corner, section 23, township 95 north, and R54W, referred to as Marindal Township, county of Yankton, South Dakota.
Thank you.
You did a
Thank you.
wonderful job.
Yeah.
You didn't
know if it
read
meant
that,
anything.
did you?
No, I
Anybody?
didn't, so. Is there anybody who'd care to comment on this application, either for or against? All right, I'll close public comment session on that.
Make a motion to approve the permit filed by Wayne Knutson based on the findings and fact.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Joe,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Sherry,
Yes.
Sorry.
Gary,
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
You, Patty, you might want to go to last names.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'd entertain a motion to come out of Drainage Board.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are back into regular session. Next item on the agenda, item number 9, request for a full-time employee for the Office of Emergency Management. Paul?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have, I know this is probably a little out of order from normally the way things go down. It is during budget time or anything like that. But we're kind of drowning over there, and I wanted to bring it. It was about a year ago I came in front and with some new stipulations and new requirements by the feds, and you all have that now in front of you. I am looking, if it'd be possible, to fund a 40-hour FTE within my department. With the state and local agreement, and please correct me if I say an acronym, working in the job, you know, I might use the word SLA, and that is state and local agreement, that it's a federal program where they pay half of my salary, and they would pay half of a second person, being the size of the county that we are at. So with the spreadsheet that I gave you, the one thing I did make one error on that is that I do not have the 15 cents that it was $17.50, and actually with the raise that we got this year, it's $17.85, so it was 15 cents an hour more. That was, I did not see that until just it was too late. You guys already had gotten packets. So, I mean, I'll go through a few things here. If somebody has questions or something of that nature, in the first docket that I gave you was what they call the emergency functions within my department. These are requirements that are set by the emergency manager that we're required to do, you know, as the job through the state and local agreement. You know, administration and finance, making sure all the fiscal stuff is done correctly. If we're doing grants, to help assist with grants, to work with townships, to work with whatever need be to get applications applied for, and so on and so forth. There's 15 of those EMFs that are required. If anybody wants, if you didn't get it or download it, you're more than welcome. I can hand it out to you. With some of the other things we do, the job description was updated. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff. I guess if anybody has any questions, I don't know how would you like to proceed with this? You know, with the job that we have over there, you know, with we working closely with the state and like with District 3 doing pre-disaster mitigation grants. I'll be here in the next couple months. We're going to have to start working with townships to start looking at some new requirements that are put out for them in the event we have a bunch of culverts washed out or flooding. There's going to be some new stuff that they're going to need to do, and we're going to have meetings with them to make that do. But for me, it's over. There's just so much stuff.
As the county grows, your department grows, I suppose,
The responsibilities. You know, I'm responsible for the emergency operations plan for the entire county. I know we have partners, you know, like the fire departments, the sheriff, EMS. Yeah, they're all partners. They help, work with some of this, but they're not the ones putting it together, making sure it meets federal requirements. I mean, they're there, but yet they're not there. The other part of it is that as much as we do and all the good plans that we have when it comes to active shooter and all this stuff, the one plan we don't have is if I keel over today, who's taking over tomorrow? I mean, I do have a couple of deputies that are doing part-time stuff. They're averaging about 12 hours a month, you know, because they do have full-time jobs and they need insurance. If this job would, if you guys would push or allow this to go happen, there is, a year ago, I used to have a gentleman by the name of Steve Hermanson who worked for me. He was retired, kind of filled in, did a 19-hour, a week thing. And that's called the part-time is what we have right now. That would go away. And this would fund, or this would take its place, if you will. So, I mean, I'm not looking to have a part-time and a full-time being paid hourly, if that's ever a question, if any of you had that. I know, Gary, last year we talked about, when I first came in, we were looking at $21 an hour. You know, we dropped that way back down. We're just actually looking at, you know, the rate that's statewide, if you will, and according to what the county's pay policies are. I know, Don, I'm trying to think, from the last time I was here, what we had talked about, and try to make some changes and looked at what needed to be done to come forth to talk about this again. I know we discussed it during budget season. It wasn't really for sure on the 50-50 with the state SLA agreement, and the second person now would be paid half of their salary, and that's insurance. The other part that would get paid for is if we have to go to travel, or I shouldn't say we, the person would have to travel, go for training, we'd get mileage for that, and then the motel rooms and whatever training costs are associated with that.
So right now you have a part-time person. And you're saying if we went ahead and hired a full-time person, that part-time would go away?
Correct.
And then this guy would be half paid by the state?
Correct.
So what we need to compare is our chunk of this cost compared to what we're incurring now, because I'm assuming this person, we're not getting cost share.
No, nothing.
Do you have those numbers?
Yes. I mean, it was on your spreadsheet.
Is it here?
Yeah. And I can hand this out to you, make sure I give you the right one here.
Because you're showing about...
I think it's approved at 19 hours.
Where is it? Am I not looking at the right one?
I got one of these for each one of you.
Oh, I didn't have my screen up there enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
22.
Yeah, we'll share.
I got it.
That,
Well, you said that 50% of your wages are paid by the state.
Correct.
And your assistant's the same way?
Not at this time.
This new
The new person, if this would go to this, it would be.
And how long has the state supplemented your wages and?
Since I started. Actually, they were doing it before I started. I mean, this program actually started around 2000, or 1998, 99 is when they started what they call the EMPG grant process.
And it's 50%.
It's 50%. The cost right now, with the deputy putting in, make sure, I gotta get the right one up here. At 40 hours at $1,785, the total, what I come up with, and using Patty's numbers with the FICA, Medicare, South Dakota retirement, the total of the wage would be like $46,328. The state would reimburse us $23,164. So our share would be like $23,000.
So I assume right now we're paying about
About that.
$23,000 for the
Between
person.
the two that I have, well, not really, because we're only allowing, it's budgeted, but I can't get them to work, or I shouldn't say that, that sounds bad. They're not able to work because their real job is not allowing, they're coming in the evenings, they're working on the weekends, trying to get these hours, you know, to get it in to help.
Okay.
But when we have big projects, it's kind of hard to, you know, and if you read my stuff really, really close, in one of the narratives, I actually had the same sentence in there twice. I mean, I need somebody to help proofread some of the stuff, because after you read so much and stuff, I mean, that's kind of a lame excuse, but I mean, there's times that I need more people. I have somebody sitting here in the audience. This is Sherry Hoffman. She works for us. She's one of my deputies, if you will, a volunteer deputy. She also works as the PIO for me in the event we have a disaster or something going on. We used to have Lee Reddick. He used to be a radio announcer, but Lee got a job down in Lincoln, and he's moved away, and she since was trained under him and moved up. We've got a couple of those people who donate their time, but yet, I mean, I'm looking for somebody that can come in and work, you know, as a permanent job.
I think it's important to know that your department paid is you and 2 part-time, and the rest is donated time to the county. I guess the other important thing to note, I feel, is if you are out on a call or somewhere, there is nobody
here,
right?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, if I have to go out for training and somebody comes to the office and needs something, you know, unless I give Hawkins, or Mr. Hawkins, you know, tell them where it's at or wait for it, they're not, well, you're not there. You know, and I've been hearing some of that sometimes. It's not that I'm not, it's just, there's only one of me and I can only be at one place at one time.
I mean, if I understand this, your projected budget for this person is $38,323.
No, $46,328. If you go across,
Oh, this is, the one you handed out is different than the one in our packet. Is that what you're looking at?
this has actually got the 1785 on it. That might be what is the difference. Right across the top here, Don.
But it's,
Wait a minute,
I'm looking
give you the wrong one.
I'm looking at that figure
yeah,
there.
it should be more, and the one that you gave us is
Oh,
more
I know
in
what
there.
I know
Do you
what's
want to
going
look
on.
at this?
My mistake. What I'm doing right now, I apologize. The one at the very bottom, if you see in the left-hand corner, does it say 10 months? That's what it would cost us for this year. The number I'm reflecting to you, what it would be for like next year if we kept going on. My mistake. So you're correct, Don.
So the state will pay half of that.
Correct.
So they pay $19,160, roughly.
Correct.
How much are you paying this halftime guy now?
Pretty close to that.
So this is a non-impact on the budget.
Technically, no, it would not be.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of 19 hours right now. And you're gonna have Patty, I mean, she does the checks. I mean, I
That's all the questions I have.
but the big thing and the way I can't get is the people, the person or persons that are looking at it. You know, when we advertised the 19-hour one, or 19 hours for the $17.50, was there's no insurance. And people don't want, I mean, they need insurance if they're gonna come and give that kind of time. And if you look for somebody that's maybe retired, I mean, that's great and stuff, but then they see what's involved in doing it, and I'm retired, I'm not wanting to do all that extra work. I mean, there is a lot of training that has to be done. I mean, I'm a certified emergency manager advanced, but that's something that they have to become. I mean, in 2 years, if we do this, they need to come to that. I mean, as long as we keep the position going, but in order for that to continue, they need to get that status also.
I think it's a good deal.
Yeah. Full-time person
Full-time person for
basic
what we're
pay.
already paying. That seems fairly, hate to say cut and dry, but.
I'd move approval of the position.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion?
I just got a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Sure.
How's that new drone working for you?
Really good. We've had a couple very successful missions out of it. One was in Nebraska, and then we've been helping these guys every once in a while going around looking for somebody that ran off into a cornfield. Haven't had much luck with that, but it's been working well.
The airport, you know, I took pictures of you.
Oh, yes.
And I posted them, and I had a lot of people going, wow, you know,
Yep.
gee, this is ours, you know. And then how's that new pickup working?
It works great. It gets along with the ambulances next door real well.
Okay.
At a motion and a second, is there further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Los,
Yes.
Swenson,
Yes.
Healy,
Yes.
Summers.
Yes. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have one or two little side notes. Are you getting my emails about the weather stuff?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you want to continue getting that? Because sometimes people say, I've had enough. I mean,
It's fine.
okay. And that anytime you need to stop over, come on over. I'll show you the facility. We got a lot of stuff and this stuff, so. All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. You too. Next item on the agenda, item number 10, Director of Equalization Annual Report and Tax Abatement. Lori, welcome.
Good evening. This mic down here. I don't get up here as often as the other department heads, but I want to give you an annual report so you know what we've been up to throughout the year. For those who don't know me, I'm Lori Mackey. I'm the Director of Equalization for Yankton County. And I have a staff of 5 other people that work in the office. I've got Matt Archer, who's the Deputy Director, Michelle Gokin, who's an appraiser, Jeff Pudoff, he does appraisal work and does the GIS work, Andrea Wright is a field person, and she also does clerical work in the office. And Nancy Brockmiller, she's the sales ratio clerk and all other jobs that happen to come up in the office. And altogether, we've got over 75, I think it's about 77 years of experience in our office. So pretty proud of the fact that we've got that longevity in our staffing. So we get a lot of people that come to the counter and they're lost. I don't know why, but it's like they don't know what Director of Equalization is. So when they've been looking for anything else, they come to our counter and we direct them to where they need to go. But those who are there for our business know that we're there to fairly and accurately assess all the real property in Yankton County. We comply with the state and local laws, and we have over 14,700 parcels that total over $2.4 billion in assessed value. To keep up with the records and do the accurate assessments, we have to follow up on all of the conveyances of real property. That's all the documents that get filed in Brian's office, the Register of Deeds. We get, it's a form called a PT 55, Property Transfer 55, I think is what it's for. And we follow up on all the deeds to make sure the addresses, legals, owners are all updated. There's about 1,000 of those that happen in the year. We follow up on all the building permits that get issued by the city, the county, and the small towns. We create and maintain the cadastral mapping that's used to establish equalized market values, and it's the mapping that's available on the Beacon website. So when you see that map, that aerial image that's on the Beacon website, it's not satellite image, it's not Google Earth, and it's not a spy plane. It is a photograph. What we do is we hire out, and it's a company that takes photographs, and it's thousands and thousands of photographs that they mesh together into a mosaic. And I think that people do appreciate and use that. We see a lot of things out on Facebook where we've got little clips from our maps showing. So we try to do that every 3 years so that we have up-to-date images out there, because I think that's what people expect when they're looking at the map. So we create and maintain the Beacon websites and the accounts. We have a professional appraisal staff, and to maintain that professional abilities, we have to, where I'm lost my train of thought, we have to do continuing education. We're required to maintain that through schooling, workshops, and comply with our USPAP. That would be the ethics standards. Another job that we have in our office is to help the taxpayer understand the what, whys, and hows of the efforts that we go through to provide fair assessments. We're audited annually by the Department of Revenue on that. They go through our records, the assessments mapping, the assessment plan, the assessment practices, our review, analysis, and sales, and the handling of exemptions. There's a report based on that audit that's going to be sent to the Commission in the late spring. So I sent you a few graphs. The first one was a table, and it's a table that shows a 5-year history of values in the county. It's broken down between City of Yankton, small towns, organized townships, and unorganized townships, and then you get a total. And then the next section of that table is ag land versus non-ag land. You'll see by looking at the graph that overall, from 2018 to 2019, our total value in the county increased 6.73%. And the graph also shows you that the City of Yankton makes up about 43% of the value in the county. The small towns are a little over 1%. Organized and unorganized townships are pretty equal in their percent of value. The organized make up 27%, and the unorganized is 28%. If you look at it by ag land and non-ag land, the ag land makes up about 32%, 33% of the value, and non-ag is 67%. I also gave you a chart that showed ag land values assessed versus sales. If you read through the chart, it's a little hard to follow with the different colors, but you've got the blue is your average sale price crop per acre, and that's fairly high. That's your top line. Then lower down is the assessed top crop dollar per acre. So that's how we're assessing it. So you see a fairly steady but slowly rising assessed per acre. And the sales usually have more variation in those. The others is the average sale price for grass. That's your red line. And then across the bottom is a more pinkish line. That's your assessed grass per top dollar. A little more steady. But you can see by looking at the graph that we never assess higher than what the sale prices are.
See that? I think our colors are different.
Your colors are different?
Yeah.
Oh, we've got two different versions of the graph. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Could you follow along with the legend? All right, great. Okay, so we've talked about the permits. We've had 859 permits that we followed up on this year. That could be leftover permits from last year that weren't finished, new ones issued this year. That's about normal. Few higher years we've had well over 1,000 permits to follow up on. So when we talked about the 6.73% increase in values, that wasn't all growth. 1.27% of that is growth. The rest of that is market changes. We're required to assess property to keep up with market. The ag land increases, we had crop land went up less than 0.5%. It's 0.04%. And the grass went up 3.4%. Notable contributors to the growth this last year, we had the Westbrook Estates property that's over on West City Limits Road. They put up the new apartment, a townhouse section, and the south garage. That $2,904,100 of growth was for that project. The next one was Applied Engineering. They did a big addition over to the east of their building, and that was $2,530,400. Then we had Merton Real Estate Company. They're doing the condos that are out east or west on 52. There's 3 sets of condos, and they've got, Mertens did built condos building 2 and 3. And so this was for that project, and it was $1,484,700. The next was National Field Archery. They did an addition as well. That was $1,125,300. And then the 5th largest contributor to growth this year was a hog barn, it was a finisher barn put up by Jay Cutts, and that was $910,600. So I mentioned earlier that we do the GIS work in our department. Jeff primarily works on that mapping, and when the new plats come in, there's 3 of us that work on that. Nancy does a portion of the work, I do a portion of the work, and Jeff does the part that affects the map. And so together we worked 59 new plats this year, 175 splits of property, and 13 merges. Occasionally people want properties merged together for one reason or another. Our office also creates custom reports to assist other county departments and occasionally customers. Matt usually does that because he's well-versed in SQL reports and is able to do that. And when necessary, Jeff helps him out and does a visual report on that with the mapping. So we keep up doing all that work with our education, and that keeps us toned up to do the work. This next year, we're going to be reviewing another 1,000 parcels or so. That's basically 2 people. Michelle has an assistant. She goes out with Andrea. But basically, you got 2 teams that are covering over 1,000 parcels in the summer months, and then in the fall, picking up those 1,000 or so permits. We've got the Beacon website. That's our visual presentation to the public that most of you are familiar with. We don't get a lot of people coming to the office now that we've got the Beacon website. Prior to that, we had people all the time coming for information. We were pulling cards, running copies, collecting for copies. Now people basically get their information through the Beacon website. There's 2 versions of that. We've got a lot of information that's available to the public for free, and there's also subscription views. We maintain about 25 to 30 paid subscriptions each year, and so we collect fees on that, and the fees more than cover the maintenance that we have to pay for the maintenance and hosting for that site. Just to give you an idea of how much that's changed, I mentioned we don't get much traffic in our office. This last year we had 430,081 total requests on our Beacon website. We had 50,182 visits, so that's basically 50,182 people logging on and making this total of 430-some thousand requests. On average, that's 130 requests per day made by 9 visitors per day. So they're getting a lot of information, and we're glad that that's available for them. We do get some graphics available by looking at the statistics on our website. Most of the results that people are requesting, isn't the mapping and or other results. They're basically looking for that basic property report. And then they give us a graphic that shows us time of usage, and mostly it's during the week, around the 10 to noon hour, and that's about it. Very few people logging in over the weekend. There's some, but that's not the high point. Nobody's sitting there at midnight on Saturday looking at Beacon. So that's about what we do in the year. Our deadlines in the office are kind of few and far between, but we have a dedicated staff that keeps on task with that. I'm really proud of the hard work that they do, and it takes a special group to do that kind of work, to not have a daily deadline or even a weekly or a monthly deadline, but to be able to take that task, manage it throughout the whole year, and have it done on time and be accurate. So I'm really proud of them, and if you've ever got any questions or want to see how we work up there, you're welcome to come on up.
Lori, refresh me on the valuation of ag buildings. Does that include rural homes?
No. The rural homes are always classified as non-ag. So you may have a farm place that has ag land in the outbuildings, and the land in the outbuildings will be classified ag, but that house that sits on there carries a non-ag classification for reporting to the state and for your taxation.
Lori, what would you project the property tax that you would collect next year on, say, that $910,000 hog barn?
That I don't collect the taxes.
What,
and
you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Just an idea of what.
It would be on a discretionary formula for the first 5 years, so you would collect taxes on 20% of that value in the first year, and then 40, then 60, then 80. And I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know a mill rate.
Can you get that figure to me?
I could. Do you have an email?
No, not right now, but.
You have an email? Yep. Okay. Any other questions?
No. Any other questions from the commissioners? No. Thank you very much, and we
Sure.
really appreciate all your hard work.
Thank-
Can I ask one question?
Yeah. Are you
Okay.
okay with that, Lori?
Sure.
You got 3 minutes. John.
Sure.
I'm John Gunderson.
Mhm.
So hopefully.
John, can you go up to the podium, please?
I'm hoping not to walk.
Since it looks like most of the legal stuff is over with, so roughly you should have about another $8 million in hog barns coming online this year that you'll be working on.
Okay.
Counts a little up. So that would then increase the tax base quite a bit, non-ag, or the ag and.
Ag, yes.
Okay. Do you have any comments on what they were trying to do with Senate Bill 4 about changing the taxation formula on ag land?
Oh, there are different bills every year on the ag land, and I'll believe it when I see it. There's new ag bills every year, and I really don't have a comment on that.
Okay, chicken.
Yep.
Does the current formula work?
You're asking my opinion on
Yes.
that? Okay.
You're the expert.
I'm the well, I didn't make the rules up. It's working as well as anything. I think it would work better than actual use, because when actual use probably sounds like the best way. Actual use probably sounds like the best way to value the ag land, but when it comes down to it, we're sitting in an office trying to value all of these properties. And if you're farmers, you know that your property is made up of a soil survey. And that's going to be kind of where they apply any value. And it would be difficult. I think it would take a lot more people on staff and a lot more preparation than to just do a quick bill at the legislature in 1 year and say, hey, we're going to actual use. My opinion is that it would need to be well thought through. There should be a pilot study done in a county to make sure that it works the way they expect it to work. I'm just of the opinion that it would be a difficult way to assess property, even though it may be the most accurate, just because that is what you're actually planting and growing. I want to be taxed on what I'm actually planting and growing. But to manage that would be cumbersome. That's
So
my
basically
opinion.
You're saying they might change it, but they better study it for a long time to make sure it works first.
Right, because, you know, our job is to implement the law.
Okay.
If they pass it, we're going to do it. You know, we're going to make it work. But we need to have the tools to make it work, and we need to know fully how they want us to implement it to make it work. That's my thoughts on that.
Thanks, John. Thank you, Lori. Appreciate it.
Thank
you.
Any more questions? I'm sure anybody can come to your office and,
Yes.
and see you during business hours.
Yep.
Any other questions from any of the commissioners?
No, just Lori, you needed my email. Here.
Oh.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, item number 11, final report on administrative review.
I've got one more thing.
Tax abatement, I apologize. Tax abatement.
Okay, I have a property here. It was brought to our attention. We looked back on our work notes, and we made an error in applying a class on a property that was to the injury of the taxpayer, and we'd like to correct that. That would amount to an abatement of $897.37.
I'll move approval of the abatement based on the fact that we made the error.
Second that.
For the month for the 897.
Yes. right, Don, for the
Yes,
$897.37?
Yes.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Kettering,
Yes.
Healy,
Yes.
Lowe's,
Yes.
Swenson,
Yes.
Flemish.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, item number 11, final report on administrative review and recommendations for planning and zoning. Commissioners Loest and Healy.
Okay, this kind of stemmed from when the, several things happened. The web version of our ordinance was not up to date. And shortly after, a resolution was passed to update Article 9, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 22, 26, 27, and the Yankton County zoning map. It encompassed roughly 10 years of updates and amendments to the ordinance. And so we had several, or I had several requests that we look into it, and then Mr. Phil Taw requested formally at the meeting that this be looked at. And so Ms. Loest and I went into the office, into the planning and zoning office. All of the documentation that's kept in the auditor's office was provided. And what we did is just went through each one of the changes and ensured that that the first reading, second reading was available, that proper public notice was made. The verbiage in the original ordinance with the markups matched the final version. Am I missing anything?
No.
So, so that being said, there were some minor findings in those updates. Nothing I would consider to be a major finding in some of the changes. Some of them were numbered paragraphs got mixed around in some of the updating. There was Article 14 was a complete rewrite, and it referenced a paragraph that there was actually 3 versions of the paragraph it referenced, and none of them made sense. And looking at the intent and similar articles referencing back to the same paragraph, we straightened that out. So there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like 5 minor findings, and none of them would be considered changes to the intent of the ordinance, or they were mostly clerical. And so we requested that that Pat update the ordinance accordingly with those clarifications or changes. And then there were 2 other findings, just for reference, that we prior to the 2008 revision, and we thought they were just worth noting. In the table of contents, the meeting minutes section is called out in table of contents, but the page is missing in the ordinance, and Pat is going to look through files and try to find those minutes. And there was an error. One of the titles says the second reading is dated 2005, but the hearing was in 2006. So again, Pat was going to try to find history of that to make those changes.
Just to be clear, those last 2 were done when Pat was not employed, so that was before his time.
Correct. And then there were some other comments that were brought up. One of them, I guess one of them is just that the zoning map looked to be updated appropriately. There was changes in 18, 16, 16, 2015, 2014. one concern is Section 403 states that changes shall be entered on the official zoning map promptly after the amendment has been approved. That is part of the ordinance, and the understanding is that the official zoning map encompasses the Yankton County zoning ordinance. And so we certainly were out of compliance with Section 403, having nearly 10 years of amendments perform without officially updating the ordinance. Some of the other things were more requests, I guess, from us. Article 4 pertains to the official zoning map and boundary interpretation. It spells out where the zoning map shall reside, changes to the map, replacement, etc. But clarity, we feel, should be introduced, specifically saying that the Yankton County zoning ordinance is part of the zoning map. Pat believes in the zoning world that that's common knowledge. I'm not a zoning administrator, so it's not common knowledge to me. So we are requesting that we make reference to that in that section. Some of the other things were small requests from us, some revisions to how the table of contents is stated, and easier way to date and keep track of revisions made to the zoning ordinance. And at the end of it, with the changes made, we recommend that the online version is ready, and I believe it is ready to be released back to the web page. We do note that we need to determine policy for posting web page content, and some of that's going to go. House Bill 1215 is in session now. It doesn't give any specifics, but it does call out if it passes. I think I printed it off. This would be a new state law. If this passes, it will read, if a county posts the ordinance book or any part of the book on the county's official website, the county shall ensure the most current version of the ordinance book or any part of the book is posted. The county auditor shall file an affidavit of online publication with the original ordinance. So again, we recommend that the ordinance be placed back online, policy to be set, I would say, pending this bill.
Yes.
Certainly before any other changes are made, we need to make sure we have policy in place. So.
Yes.
Did we decide where the official location of the print copy? Are we going to have it in multiple locations? Are we going to?
I think that's a discussion when we move forward to amend and put it in our zoning ordinance, so everybody is clear as to whether it's in the planning office or it's in the Register of Deeds office or it's in the auditor's office, is to make that very clear. So every time we update the ordinance, there's a new version that goes, and we always keep the old one. It's always important to keep the old one for record.
Thanks for this study. It took a lot of time.
It was well organized. We showed up and all of the files were there. Denise and Pat had pulled them all so we could walk through everything. They had big binders, and many of them had several amendments as they went through, and all of them were still there. So felt very confident that what was done to the ordinance was done correctly. And when you go out to the website, hopefully tomorrow, if we can get that posted tomorrow, that'd be wonderful. I don't know if we actually need to make a motion here to post it.
It won't be posted. I will not post it.
You won't post it?
No.
Is there, may I ask a reason?
Because I think we decided that there would be a policy on posting things before we posted. That was my understanding. Pat is not in the office.
We can't hear you.
We had discussed that with Pat, that we need to work on policy, and that will be brought up at planning and zoning, but he,
Okay, but I'm personally not gonna put it on.
okay.
Okay.
Did you want us to approve this memorandum, or what did you guys? We need to-
I don't think we'd have to approve
But
it.
but I think we should follow up with Phil Tao, and, because I don't think Phil's here tonight, is he?
I don't see him.
But I'd like you to make
That's a
sure he
good point.
knows that you're.
I can
you're done.
ensure he gets a copy mailed to
Sure.
him or sent to him, or I'll do that.
Any other commissioners have anything else anything else from you two on this?
No.
Okay. All right, well, thank you guys for your hard work on that. Next item on the agenda, item number 12, job description questionnaire. I worked with District 3 and had them put together a job description for Planning Commission and also a board appointment application. If you guys want to take a look at this. And if we want to approve it. Did anyone have anything to add to this? And this could be the, if we want more time, we could do it next month too, or next meeting too, but.
I didn't have any questions.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to look over this, Don?
I didn't get it.
Okay.
Oh, just put
Yeah,
it here. Oh,
yeah.
okay, sorry.
And I think, if I remember right, Pat said there is no current job description.
I believe, yeah, that's correct. You know, bottom line, we're going to be expecting a lot from planning commissioners, and how are they going to know our expectations if we don't, you know, point them out? And so I think this.
I'd like to read it, so we can do it
Next meeting?
If we got time to
Yeah,
do it.
that sounds good.
Thank you.
Yep. Put it on for next meeting. All right, update on the online zoning ordinance. We're going to have that posted.
It doesn't
What's-
sound that way.
Okay, well, we'll have to discuss that the next meeting as well. Okay, next one, weekly building permit reports. I believe there was some talk that we wanted to have weekly building permit reports emailed out to us. So if we could go ahead and do that, appreciate it, Denise. Is there anybody who'd like to speak on that?
No.
Okay. But we request weekly building reports be emailed to the commission.
I'd like to speak on that, please.
Yep, come on up.
Denise Wibben, and I'm Deputy of Planning and Zoning. In light of what has happened in our office late last week, I am the only one in the office. Right now, between answering phones and people coming in, that's all I get done. So I really doubt that the building permit reports are going to get done weekly.
Do you need some help in that office? Is that? Sounds like you're pretty swamped.
I don't know what to say at this point. Okay.
All right, in lieu of that, we'll put that on for the next meeting as well. Next item on the agenda, item number 13, spring load limits. Mike? Thank you.
pretty simple. One line.
Yep. Simple as good. Welcome, Mike.
I come up with a similar resolution, a little different, but on
All right, if we could keep the sidebar conversations down, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Go ahead, Mike.
in the big handout, that's a copy of, I got it off the state DOT website of 2018 low limits. They do not have the 2019 put on there for all the counties yet. I highlighted the neighboring counties and what their low limits are. There's only one neighboring county with 6 ton per axle. It'd be, well, this is 2018, so it's not 6 ton yet, but Clay County is 6 ton per an axle this year. I talked to Rod Polly. But certain roads are 6 tons, certain are not there. None of the neighboring counties have a permit process for overweight. I talked to South Dakota LTAP, and they didn't see a problem with having a permit process as long as we emphasize non-divisible and we're looking for preservation of our road systems. And I have 2 options there on the resolution. We got rid of the 45 cents per mile deal there. It's now reads a single trip permit fee of $150 for over 6 tons per axle or 80,000 pounds gross vehicle weight, with an additional $25 fee for every 2,000 pounds over 80,000 with specified route. The second option would be for an annual permit fee of $200 for over 600 tons per an axle less than 70,000 pounds gross vehicle weight. Put a cap on the annual so we don't have a 86,000 pound truck running free during the load limit season.
So explain how that's different from last year.
Well, versus last year, the permit, there was a big gray area last year. There was nothing listed about an annual permit. And the way it was worded last year, you could have been 86,000 plus and had an annual permit.
And what about the fee differences too? Because they've been raised.
Yep, and the last year, the fee was $100 for the permit. This year for a single permit, yeah, it'll be $150, or annual will be a $200 permit, so we are raising it.
And just for the record, you took in about $700 for what, 9?
Yeah, 700, 900, somewhere in there.
9 permits.
Yeah.
$85 a truck.
It wasn't, yeah.
Wasn't much, was it?
And if you figure it out, roughly $700 to $800 per load of asphalt. We're still not going to raise any money. It's just going to be a deal to make them come in and make sure we, know what's going on with our loads.
Well, I think if we can make the process as simple as we can, hopefully we have more people participate in it. And part of that would be at least calling in and discussing routes, and you may be able to say absolutely stay off that road or not, or work around it.
Right.
I would hope would be part of it. And getting rid of I'm fine with getting rid of the 45 cents per mile because that just adds confusion, but I would like the specified route that you've still got in here. That would be.
And that's something too,
You guys could shut your cell phones off, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
I think prior to last year, we were always 7 tons per an axle. So it was.
Last year was the first year. we
Last year
went
was,
to 6.
was the first year we went to 6. Is that correct, Don? Yeah.
Don, what was the reason, if you remember, why you went from 7 to 6?
Just to maintain the roads.
Maintain the roads.
Try to
Yeah.
Preserve.
When they came down and talked to us, they talked about weight and when the thaw is coming, it's.
Yeah. Makes sense.
The problem, you know, Gary makes a great point with the $700, it's hardly worth it. But I'm sure that there's a multiple of number of trucks out there every day that are exceeding the weight limits. It's just a
Right.
matter of enforcement.
Well, and I just don't want to, talking to a few guys, if a guy raises the fee too high, how many people are going to come in and actually, they're going to try to dodge the bullet instead, possibly, you know?
Right. If you look at
Would agree.
the penalty schedule from the DOT, it's 5 cents a pound up to 3,000 pounds would be the penalty. So we probably need to stay under that, or else, you know, why bother if you're gonna end up paying more than that? Which, yeah, that'd be $150 if at 3,000 pounds. So I know I kind of talked to you a little bit about it, about where we're at today. Earlier today, I was having a discussion with somebody, and we talked about maybe just a weekly permit even. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody, or if we want to just do an annual. Load limits typically are on for what, about 6 weeks, give or take?
Well, like I said, it just all depends on the,
Right.
on this year, well, the way it's going, we might not put them on until the middle of March, you know?
Right.
But it just depends. We've had winters before where we put them on in February and they didn't come off until mid-April,
May or-
you know?
Yeah.
There's been times where we put them on and 3 weeks, a month later, they were off.
Right.
Every year's different.
Looking through the list of all the counties, I would venture to say we're majority are 6 ton now, barely. But there's more 6s in here than 7s that I circled. The lowest was 4 tons, and then one didn't have any load limits, and that was Stanley County. I would venture to say they have mainly gravel roads out there probably. So I certainly don't think we're out of line here. And the 6 ton, are you gonna ask for public?
And the-
Yeah, does anybody want to make a comment on the load limits?
And the permit process, you know,
Permit
that's,
process?
from what,
Come on up, sir. Come on up and, we want to hear what you say, but we need to put your stuff in.
What happens when the county,
Can we get your name so we can put you in the minutes of the meeting? Bruce Heiger.
what happens when the county, it's on the county line? Is it a 6-ton road when Clay County or Turner County 7-ton and we're 6?
well, like this year, the East County line south of Irene, that would be ours.
So it goes year by year?
Well, every 3 years we rotate.
Okay.
So 2 more years from now, that'll be Clay County again.
Clay's 6 now, though, correct?
Clay is 6 this
Yes,
year.
so they'll be 6.
Thanks, Bruce. Anyone else care to make a public comment on this? Anybody? Anybody? All right. I guess I'll close public comment on this. Commissioners, I guess the decision is ours.
Well, I think we just heard from Lori that the assessed valuation of the county is moving in a direction where there's more non-ag valuation than there is ag. So we have to look at both city and country people on resolution of this problem. Many of the city people would wonder why, if weight is an issue, and I think we've been led to believe that it's the major issue. I see some people still go by miles per hour, and I think we've heard that that makes no difference. But if I were a city person, I'd say I want to preserve the roads. And 2/3 of the valuation to fix the roads and pay the budget comes from city and small town and farmhouses valuation.
It's definitely a balancing act, that's for sure. What we want to do. Do you have a motion, Sherry?
Yep, I move to approve the resolution for load limits.
Motion and a second, further discussion?
Do we have to pick an option there?
I think as written with option 1 or 2 included.
Okay.
So as he has presented it here.
Okay.
They can either come in and get a single trip permit or,
They can do whatever.
or an annual.
Okay.
Have a motion and a second, further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Bose,
Yes.
Swanson,
Yes.
Kettering,
Yes.
Ely,
Yes.
Clem.
Yes. Motion passed. All right, thanks, Mike. Next item on the agenda.
Can I ask Mike something? or-
Yeah, go ahead.
The no truck, through trucks on Deer Boulevard are up, I know.
Yep.
And we have those in a lot of other roads, like 444, for example. Maybe the other Mike can answer that. How much of a fine is there for trucks that violate that?
I couldn't tell you. It's, the DOT takes care of that. There's special training comes in and all that weight stuff.
Yeah.
Our deputies don't get involved in that. We'll take a complaint, give it to DOT.
Who should I talk to find that out?
At the scale.
Highway Patrol?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. All right, next item on the agenda. Come on up, guys. Bridge update, Clark Engineering.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chairman?
Yes.
When we played with this earlier this afternoon, it seemed to work better.
This is what,
Yeah.
yeah.
Shut them off.
Okay.
That's,
That's the one you just,
you want to do one
That,
more?
that seemed pretty good there. I don't
I
put
think
everybody
that-
sleep in the dark.
I think that'll work.
It was better with dark, but we'll see. Oh, that's pretty good.
So we passed out some handouts. Everybody's got that. My name is Kevin Goff again, and Adam Polly is here with me again. We also have Josh Prather. Josh is one of the people who does a lot of the work. He put this PowerPoint presentation together for us, so it's nice to let those guys come and see their work talked about. So we invited Josh along tonight as well. He's not billing you, so don't worry about that. We will work through this here. So this is what I kind of have for an agenda tonight. We are going to take more than the 5 minutes I think we had on the agenda, I suspect. We'll go over what we talked about January 28th. You guys had posed some questions to us. We sent some information to you. We'll give you a chance to ask some questions about that. Adam is going to walk us through a briefer, more detailed but still fairly brief overview of the inspection, show some pictures of some things that are concerning. I think there was some curiosity to see some of that, so we'll show some of that. And then we'll circle back to prioritization It's kind of short-term, long-term plan. Again, tonight we're speaking about the 4 Jim River bridges. And then as we do the prioritization, I hope I can get you guys to kind of fall in line with what you want to do and let us know. And then we'll circle back and I think pretty quickly talk about some posting strategies and the way we want to go about that once you know the order you want to proceed with those and kind of the timelines. I think we can help you with some decision making on posting at that time. And then Mike has asked us to update you on a couple of smaller township type bridges that he's doing some work on himself that we assisted him with a little bit, but these are the really expensive bridge repair projects that we're talking about. We're going to talk about the other end of the spectrum a little bit. He's got a couple of those going. If you have any questions, jump out while I'm going here. Again, the review from January 28th, there were some questions on cost estimates. They're up there. You all have a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. Standard disclaimer, those are what I would call early budget numbers. So we anticipate that they're high. We don't want to be the low bidder when we're letting you guys start an initial planning process. So those numbers are high. So if somebody tells you, oh, that's too high, that's kind of a little bit by design. So yeah, you might think that those are, 10% high, 15% high, but they also might be built in 5 or 10 years too. So those always have to be looked at. We had provided you some information on what the design truck looks like, and a map. I think some written evaluations of the cross section, a little bit of an explanation on loading. Any questions? I didn't want to just breeze by that. Seemed like you guys had some questions last week, so if you have them, we'd be happy to try and answer them. We're moving fast. That's good. And then there should be a paper copy in front of you. We've revised that, made it maybe a little bit easier to read, that draft plan, and that'll be up on the screen. Everybody will get a chance to see that later. So you guys have that, and we'll be referring to that kind of as we go through that. And here is the draft plan. So this is something I think we showed you guys this last week. It has the draft on paper. It doesn't show up on the screen, but this is a draft, and by draft, I mean this is sort of a recommendation from Clark Engineering and the Highway Department, but the plan will come from the commission. So we're here to talk about that tonight, perhaps reprioritizing those. With that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Adam, and he's going to go through the 4 Jim River bridges, probably take, depending on questions, about 5 minutes a bridge. I think if we just let him kind of go through each bridge, we'll stop at the end, answer any questions you guys have about those bridges then. With that, I'll turn it over to Adam.
All right, the first one we're going to talk about is the Stone Church Bridge. This is the #1 priority as recommended by Clark Engineering. It's on the first row of your handout there. These first 2 pictures here are the 2 pictures we always take of every bridge, profile and the alignment looking down the road. And as you can see, the cones up there, they were doing that preservation work while we were inspecting this bridge. The photo on the left there is the deck prior to the rehab, and the photo on the right is the deck after rehabilitation. All right, the photo on the left on this slide is a typical fixed bearing at the abutments. The abutments are the substructure or the support at the ends of the bridges. And then we have on the right there's a typical rocker bearing at the bents. The bents are the substructure in the middle of the bridge with the columns in the river. As you can see here, the rocker bearing here is rotated and tilted in the expansion direction. This is pretty typical. We were inspecting the bridge in August, so we expect it to be in the expansion direction. This might be towards the far end of the expansion, but still, like a day like today, it's probably more vertical. Picture on the left here is corrosion of the girders over the bents. We have painted these with that preservation project. I'll show a picture later on of that. And photo on the right here is the west end of the abutment 1. Abutment 1 is the south abutment on this bridge. As you can see, we got some deterioration starting here. This is a massive piece of concrete, is the abutment. This looks pretty bad, but it is of concern. We're going to keep monitoring it. That's why we took this picture. And here is the girder ends after we had painted them. This is to prevent that corrosion from worsening and getting that section loss. And here's another picture of a couple more girders that were painted. Okay, here's the east end of abutment 1, still on the south abutment. As you can tell, starting to deteriorate. And here's a general condition of abutment 1. It's hard to tell here, but it looks like a repair has been made. This abutment was probably undermining, and they went in, formed it up, poured some concrete in there to arrest that undermining. Here's the east end of abutment 6. This is the north abutment. As you can see, the deterioration right here starting, not as bad as the south abutment. And here's undermining of abutment 6. This is probably what was fixed on abutment 1 right here, where they formed it up and poured concrete in there. The bent cap. So this is the top of the bent in the water. You can see the water here. You're starting to get deterioration here, exposed rebar. And here's a spall on the underside of bent cap 4. These bents and abutments are numbered from south to north. So abutment 1's south, and you got bent 2, bent 3, and so on to abutment 6. West end of bent cap 5, just starting to deteriorate here. And we have tree debris in span 1. Spans are the same thing. They're numbered south to north. So this would be the south span. This is of concern. With this amount of tree debris, we could have some scour issues going on this bent that we can't see. It looks like this might have been there for a while, collecting for a while. Might not have been brought to your attention, but this is definitely worth the time to remove that out of the river. And here we have a big sign. This is put up on all the bridge work that is done with a new big grant process. And here's the current weight limit sign. You can't really read it, but right now it's posted at single unit 14, combinations 24. Recommendations for Stone Church: repair both ends of abutment 1 and the east end of abutment 6, repair the deteriorating bent caps, and reset the expansion bearings. The reset of the expansion bearings is very costly. You have to lift up the girders, get them back in the right position based on the temperature at the time of construction, and get everything connected back. And a replacement recommendation: the structure is nearing the end of its useful life and should be programmed for replacement. Obviously, if you guys program this for replacement soon, next 5 years, we would not recommend these rehab. But we have to put in these rehab recommendations because currently we don't know when it will be replaced.
What would your estimate be on the rehab? How long is that by us? And what load limit would we be looking at?
The load limit would stay the same.
Okay, it'd simply be preservation.
Preservation, yes.
What bridge improvement grant was done on that bridge then recently?
This was a preservation grant, so that was the polymer chip seal and painting of the girders. And here's the general safety recommendations: install approach guardrail, upgrade the bridge railing, remove the tree debris, repair the undermining, and add riprap to protect bent 3 and abutment 6. With that, are there any questions on Stone Church?
About how long do we have with that before it starts getting significantly worse? Best guess?
10 years maybe, best guess. I mean, so the load rating, we only load rate the superstructure of the bridge. That's the girders. So the load rating does not currently take into account the condition of the substructure. If that keeps deteriorating, the load rating will be based on the substructure and our recommendation of that. So as of right now, the load rating is based off the girders alone.
we're at 1424, and it looks like you're recommending 1113.
That's the.
Or we might go more on that. That's one of those things we'll circle back and talk about.
Okay.
If you remember, I did a discussion, I'll talk a little bit about that now. I did a discussion last time. If we start saying, if you're telling us you're gonna use this bridge for 5 years,
Sure.
one of the things we're doing with posting is we're trying to extend the life of this bridge almost forever. We want to protect it forever. When you guys start saying we're gonna replace it in 5 years, maybe we can move up. This is never about safety. This is about preserving the structural integrity of the bridge as long as possible. Once we know that the end of the service life of the bridge has been estimated to be in the next 5-7 years or something, then we can start being a little less aggressive with lowering the postings. So that's one of the things we'll talk about. The ones that we want to do sooner, maybe we can relax the postings on. We'll talk about that in the context of all 4 of them after we get through this.
Any other questions on Stone Church Bridge? Moving right along to Jamesville. This is the second row on your draft plan and priority number 3. Right here. Again, the 2 typical pictures, profile and alignment. This one also had the preservation work being done and while inspecting. Again, the typical deck prior to and after. You can see the bird bath ponding out here. That was some indication of the deterioration of the deck. This is looking at the underside of the deck here. We got a transverse crack with efflorescence. This is what the polymer chip seal will prevent. If we would have done this sooner, we wouldn't have this efflorescence. That efflorescence is made from the water coming through the concrete. And here we got a typical bearing at the abutments. This right here has been an emphasis for us talking to Mike. We need to get rid of this debris that accumulates on the abutments and the bents. This debris will sit here, collect water, and corrode the girders. There's a typical bearing at bent 2. You can see this one's more vertical. And a typical bearing at bent 3, slightly tilted, but not as bad as Stone Church. And a typical bearing at bent 5. And this picture right here is a cracked weld. This right here is the bottom flange of the girder, and this is the cover plate. This is just a tack weld though. This is not a structural weld. There's a whole bunch of these tack welds going across this cover plate here. Not a major concern, it's just one. The structural weld is at the cover plate going transverse across the bottom flange of the girder. That one is still intact and good. And here's some of the debris on the bent cap that I just talked about. And horizontal cracking on the south face of the bent cap. This is on a couple of the bent caps. This is probably the worst. As you can see down here is a delamination forming. It starts about right here. A delamination is a piece of loose concrete that will fall off at some point. If that delamination starts moving under the bearing, that's when we really raise concerns. But as of right now, it's not there, and we'll keep checking that. Here's a cracking on the abutment 1, horizontal cracking, and deterioration on the west end of abutment 7. As you can see, just starting here, not as bad as Stone Church. Again, with the tree debris, be nice to get that out of there, prevent the scour. And here is a picture after we did the preservation of the painted girder end. And again, the big sign and the weight limit sign. Currently, Jamesville is single unit 24, combination 40. Recommendations: preservation, remove the debris from the top of the bent caps and abutment sills. Rehab, repair the deteriorating substructure elements, reset the expansion bearings. Again, with the replacement recommendation on this one also. General safety recommendations: upgrade the bridge railing, approach guardrail, and remove the tree debris from under the structure. Any questions on the Jamesville Bridge?
Those were also numbered south to north, 1 through 7?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So how long, same question, how long can we expect out of this bridge?
This one, the substructure is not quite as bad as Stone Church, maybe 15, 20 years. That's my best guess.
At a derated load or at 40 ton?
That would be at the 40 ton.
When-
The LRFR.
Just to comment on the service life, when you think about these, of course, you know, we can't predict, oh, this is the year it's gonna go, and that you plan for this year.
What?
But essentially, you're talking about from 52 to 62, so in a 10-year window. So, and they're all very similar in construction methodology, so, and we probably should kind of start to expect that they all go about the same time. The Stone Church becomes the higher priority for us, and I'll circle back, talk about this again at the end. But the Stone Church is one of the newer ones, but for whatever reason, the girders are a little lighter, spans are a little longer, and it's starting to feel more of the posting, start to have just a little bit of section loss. It's when we model the structure, the superstructure, the girders, it responds more. In other words, we get more aggressive about posting, which is really why we're moving that one to posting. The condition of these is not that different. Really, our targeting of the Stone Church has a lot to do with that posting and knowing that we don't want that. And as we've recommended, we want to try to spread those out over 20 years if we can. That seems like the obvious first place to go.
Any other questions on Jamesville? The next one is the Johnson Bridge, which is our last priority. It's in the third row of your draft plan. Again, our two typical pictures. And here is the deck prior to and after the polymer chip seal. Again, with the transverse cracking with efflorescence on the underside of the deck. And here's another typical bearing at the abutments. As you can see, still got the tree debris, or the debris here collecting water. Typical bearing at bent 2, kind of looking at a different angle than where I've shown previously. And a typical bearing at the bends. And here's corrosion on the exterior girders over the abutments. This probably had debris stacked up on here collecting water. It's probably where this corrosion came from. And here, this is one of the cracked welds that we found during our inspection. All of the 4 Jim River bridges have this same weld in the web. Johnson Bridge is the only one that had a crack, and this one actually had 3 cracks. The first one was on girder 1 in span 2 near bent 3. Girders are numbered north to south. So this would be the north girder in span 2 near the 3rd substructure unit.
They don't look like that anymore. So if you go looking for them, you won't have any trouble finding them. They have big bolted splices on them now. We'll see a picture of that later.
And here's the second one on girder 3. So this is the second to the south in span 4 near bent 5. And the last one is girder 4, the southernmost girder, in the exact same location as girder 3. That's what really made us nervous, that we had the 2 girders had the same deficiency right next to each other. This picture, it's hard to see, but there's a little hole that was drilled right here in a splice. This is what would have happened if we would have caught if the cracks in the welds were caught sooner. We still would have made it a critical finding. We still would have had to maybe close down the bridge, do further analysis. But usually you can drill out that crack so it doesn't propagate further into the weld. And tree debris.
But you have to catch them when they're that long, not when it's cracked the whole length of the girder.
Tree debris at bent 3. And at bent 4, you can see the water rushing around there. That's what creates that scour problem. big sign, and our weight limit sign, 2440. I think this has, when we found the cracked splices, we closed down the bridge. We did some analysis. The load rating gal said it was good to open the bridge at 5 ton. So we put a 5 ton out there. After we completed these bolted splice retrofits, it was posted at our recommended LRFR rating. So it is now posted at that 2433. And here's the bolted splice retrofit on girder 1, girder 3, and girder 4. And here is a painting again over the open joints here. This one was not quite finished, but this one was. Preservation, we're extend the deck drains below the bottom of the girders. This is, you know, when you get a hard rain, you get all that water coming through the deck, you got wind, it pushes that water up against the girders, corrodes the girders. We want to see those deck drains below the bottom of the flange. So when the wind blows it, it just goes underneath the bridge. Rehabilitation recommendations, this was in my report before the splices were repaired, so we had that repair of the cracked welds. We believe, we've heard that this bridge is a scale dodging route. We were pretty certain that this was an overloaded truck that came across at some point in the past and cracked these welds. Like I said, all 4 Jim River bridges have these, and this was the only one we found these cracked welds on.
We gather a tremendous speed coming down the hill from the west.
The speed itself doesn't, but sometimes you get the bounce and the impact. There is, you know, that's an element of design when we design these, is there's an impact loading, so it definitely can make a difference if they're bouncing.
Questions on Johnson Bridge?
I would just, before you finish, just go to one thing. This was one, I think maybe somebody asked this question, maybe we should put this on an annual inspection report. Maybe we should be looking at it because we had cracks on it. In visiting with Steve Johnson, and Steve Johnson is the state bridge engineer at DOT, they took it with me. This doesn't happen all the time, so we go looking for help and we send it to some people at DOT, and they were looking at them and talking with Adam and our design guys and load rating guys on the phone, and they were going through that. And in addition, the guy who came out and did some x-rays and took a look at those welds, they really didn't feel like they were new. And so these welds have been, those cracks have been there, subject to an old overload, more likely. So in their mind, if the response that we got was, yeah, we put this on an annual. If these had all happened in the last 2 or 3 cycles where we're starting to see a pattern, that we might jump on this, but this bridge is probably in the best shape of any of them now. So even though it seems like we saw something really critical on that, we fixed it. So I think there was a question about that last month, so I just wanted to circle back on it.
I think you said it was $1,500 for an inspection. Is that what, was that correct?
$1,500 for our inspection?
Yeah, that inspection. Somebody said.
I think the snooper truck
rental
was.
Yeah, it was $1,600 for the snooper truck for that day. Plus we had 3 guys out there inspecting from our company, and we had the ultrasound tester out there testing the welds.
So then a grand total of.
I'm not sure what it came out to be.
Don't quote me on this, but you're not 10, but you're more than 5, I would guess, for that day.
That was covered under your bridge inspection work order. So the county paid 20% of that. We made a change order onto our work order. Any other questions on Johnson? Move on to the last bridge, which is Fleegs. This is our second priority. And the 4th, the last one on your draft plan. Right down here. How long will the Johnson Bridge last?
Same answer. These bridges are all about the same era. And so one would expect that they're a very similar type of structure, so we'd expect them to be about the same. We're going to get into a good conversation I think everybody's going to like. When we start instead of talking about these in the details, we'll start looking a little bit more macro, a little bigger picture, and talking about these, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, this bridge could last for 20 years, but I could probably say that about every one of them. We might have to do a little work on them to get that 20 years out of it, but we could get 20 years out of them. If we get 20 years out of all of these, what was that total number? Did anybody do that math? You're $12 million. You guys are not going to want to come up with $12 million in 1 year. So that's a lot of what we're talking about, is trying to prioritize and set one, that we start working on these so we don't have to do them all in 1 year.
All right, Fleegs Bridge, the two photos again, profile and alignment. Here's deterioration of the edge of the deck. This is kind of what was going on the other three. This one did not have any work done. Before we did our inspection, it was Brian Gusted's understanding that this might be the first priority based on the ADT and the width of the structure. So this one did not have any work done on it because of that. There's corrosion to the bottom flange of the exterior girders. Typical bearing at the abutments. You can kind of tell in this photo there has been some painting done on the girders. You can kind of see the paint back here on the concrete. And right here you can really see it. This one did have some painting over the vents, like we just did on the other three. Minor section loss in the bottom flange. And again, here's another cracked weld, just a tack weld on the cover plate, and just one of them.
And we bring those to your attention so you don't see that later and freak out because we didn't tell you that. They're really not that important, but we didn't, if somebody dug into it and started looking at it, we didn't want somebody to think we were hiding something from you.
Tree debris, span 3 and span 5. And the weight limit sign. It was 1925 when we did our inspection. It is currently 2433. I think I misspoke. Johnson's Bridge is 2432. Sorry, I looked at the wrong bridge. Johnson Bridge is currently 2432. Fleegs is 2433. These are recommendations. Tree debris, erosion, some collision damage on the guardrails. Questions. Before we get to questions, I want to try to pull up Google Earth here.
While you're doing that, I'll try to explain why we're going to show this. He is, you can see he's zooming in. The sufficiency rating. You know, we talk about Stone Church and why is its sufficiency rating so low? It's because of the posting. The posting affects it. With Fleegs, if you look at in that table you guys have our LFR, which is I think where we're probably going to be headed on some of these. That 24 legal is that's basically legal loads other than the special hauling vehicles. The reason that one, the sufficiency rating is down, is because the road is so narrow. If you guys have driven across these bridges, that's the narrow one, and it also happens to be the high ADT one. First one built, probably didn't think it needed to be as wide, and as these went on, they built them wider. But so that is a red flag because it's a safety condition for the traffic, not for a bridge failure or something. So that one flags. So one of the weird things that happens with some of these is we go along and we keep talking about one problem, then a unique bridge comes along and it's a different problem that starts to manifest and become the one that adds to the sufficiency rating. So because that sufficiency rating is lower, that gives us the opportunity to maybe compete with a better big, and the ADT is high. That's a better big score at this point, so that might be one that we want to move towards the front. So Adam will kind of walk you through this a little bit. Sorry, Adam.
I'm trying to get her up here. There we go. So this is driving on Fleegs Bridge here. As you can see, we got a nice road out here with shoulders. As you're coming up, we got the guardrail out here. Starts necking you down. And hopefully this works. But as you get closer and closer to the bridge, you just get that pinching effect. And when you're just in a car or something and you meet a semi, you can really feel that. It almost feels unsafe, that width restriction. So this was part of the reason this was the first priority for Brian when he was here because of this, the ADT, the scour problems on the southeast corner. But as we did our inspections, we started seeing the defects on Stone Church and thought that probably would be the best option to go first.
How wide is Fleet Bridge then, between guardrails?
That's a really good question. Thank you to look that up today.
Gotta stump you on something.
Yeah, and then by comparison, maybe what one of the other ones is at. We have it, we just have to look it up.
So the overall deck width is 26.3 feet. Let's see if I can get another one here.
Is that consistent all the way, or did you say there was a spot that's more narrow than?
No, it's the roadway as you approach is wider. I think that the traveling, the asphalt pavement is probably actually wider than the bridge before you get there, and the bridge is just narrow.
It just
than the
appears
typical road.
like you're.
They saved some money and narrowed up the bridge when they built it. We have that debate all the time sometimes, you know, you want to provide a...
It wasn't narrow until they put the guardrail in.
That's, so
yeah, when he talks about it's 26 foot wide, he's actually from the outside of the guardrail, and then some of those guardrails get pretty wide, so you're down to like, 11-foot lane. That's really narrow.
What year they put the guardrail in, but it's been quite a while.
So Fleegs is 26.3 out to out of the deck, and I just looked at Stone Church, that's the same thing. So it must be that guardrail that is pinching you down.
Okay, but you don't know what it is between the guardrail. I'll measure it tomorrow.
And this, when we say upgrade bridge rail, I had that on all of them. That's what upgrading the bridge rail is. The bridge rail has to be flush with the face of the curb to meet federal standards. The other ones have a steel channel as a bridge rail, and it's set back from the face of the curb, so somebody could ramp up on that and get over. This, when we have it flush with the face of the curb, it's meant to keep you on the bridge, on the roadway.
He talks about approach rail, if you back up a little bit, Adam. We talked about approach rail on a lot of those. That's the rail before you get to the bridge that kind of funnels you on. This one, probably because of the ADT at some point in the past, approach rail was put on it. The other ones didn't have it. We're saying to put it on. That's something that sort of always gets put in there. Nobody would put, approach rail would cost you $100 and some thousand on that. Nobody would put that on a bridge that, you're as close to the end of its service life as this one. So sometimes we put things in there because we're supposed to, but they're really not necessarily what we're recommending you need to do. You're just checking the box.
Just so everybody knows, the requirement for approach rail is 150 ADT or more. Approach rail is required. And ADT, again, is average daily traffic. Fleegs has 2,250 ADT. I put approach guardrail on all 4 of these bridges, even though Jamesville only has an ADT of 78. It's still a county paved road. We feel like approach rail is still needed on those.
If we were building a new bridge on a paved county road with DOT funding, they would fund the approach rail.
Maybe this is premature, but talk about the scouring on this bridge.
Yeah,
If down the road we get to replacement, that scouring issue is not going to go away, is it? I mean, how?
No, zoom out a little bit, Adam.
Somebody isn't going to say that we can't put a bridge in this location or something.
I think I'm gonna try to do some amateur stream, how the stream works. So a lot of it is, zoom in just a little bit so we can see those bridges. If you see those black lines on the left and right of the highway bridge, that's kind of the bridge. You can point at those, Adam. So there's how wide that bridge is. And if you go down to the railroad bridge, you can see on the right there's that peninsula that sticks out, and that's narrowed. So one of the things that's happening in there is you've got water coming under the capacity under the bridge upstream is more than the one downstream. So it comes in there and it's pinching, and it speeds up first as it comes through that smaller gap. The water will start to speed up, but then you start to get that whole thing will circle back, and that's what would happen. That's something that needs to be repaired. That would be quite a discussion if we were doing that. The DOT might not want to, bridge money is to pay for bridges. It's not to pay for roads because you want to rebuild a half-mile of road as you approach a bridge, or to pay for things on stream improvements. But, you know, ultimately, a lot of riprap, the big stones are placed under the bridge. You can kind of see that. We really probably, some of that riprap might have been better spent on that bank, stabilizing it, trying to stabilize that. So there's a stabilization issue to this one that would definitely need to be done when it's replaced. At this point, there's almost so much riprap there, it might be exacerbating some of the downstream problems, but the bridge is secure. They've riprapped the bridge really well.
If we talk bridge replacement, given the scouring and some of those issues, though, that estimate that's in there, that's probably just bridge replacement, and then.
Yeah, that's really just for the structure. So that would be one of those unforeseen conditions that you just foresaw for us. So yeah, that would be something that would change it. You know, as you move forward with a project like that, there's going to be countless steps where the cost estimates get improved and revisited.
The 3.59 million, that's not for the whole replacement of the whole bridge, is it?
Yes, that's to remove the existing structure and replace it with a new one.
Ooh. We've been told a lot higher figure than that.
Pretty consistent. Yeah, actually, in some ways that sounds really high.
One time it was 8 or 12, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was an estimate.
11 was the number, I don't remember real.
Well, there are different types of bridges that you can build. Again, keeping in mind how much money you can get every $4 million every so many years, we could build a there's different kinds of bridges we can build. These old steel girders that we don't build anymore, we've moved on to some new things. You see in some real low budget areas, we do some little double T's, we call them. A lot of different structures you use, and they cost different amounts, and what you're really buying is, you know, if you save 50% on the budget, you're probably going to get 50% of the service life. It is possible that, I think you guys have some continuous concrete, which the entire bridge is basically cast in place concrete, and those are fabulous. They're just wonderful to inspect, because it's like going for a walk in the park, because you can still see formwork in it. There's just nothing goes wrong with them. They crack a little bit because concrete cracks and gets a little efflorescence, but they're nice bridges. So it's possible that it was a different type of bridge. The bridge we would be talking about to put in here would be really pretty similar to what you would see on a state highway. It's similar. We've built the bridge. This would be. We're doing final design on one for Brown County. How much did the one in Moody County cost? Do you recall?
2.1.
2.1. It was a little shorter, but on the Big Sioux River, we did one in Hamlin County by Castlewood that was built two years ago. Again, a little shorter in that same price range. So I think you had to be talking about a vastly different bridge. So I think that, like I said earlier, I think that number is probably a little high. This would be a pre-stressed concrete girder. It has the strands in it. They make them in Rapid City, or they make them over in Minnesota, depends on where the company is. It used to be Cretex, they're called Forterra now. Make most of them around here. It's the original shape of that concrete beam is what we call a Minnesota shape. The original design of those were there, and what we're really doing is adjusting the span, doing the strand patterns where they stress it and actually put it into compression where it's going to go into tension in the future. I'm talking to the engineer, sorry, I'm geeking. But yeah, they're pretty typical. That's what the state would build. I bet you if you drive on a state highway any direction out of Yankton, you're going to go across the bridge that would be like that, what we're proposing. That sounds...
That's good news.
That sounds, I mean, yeah, you can build all... I wonder if somebody wasn't talking about all four of them for 11 million.
No, they weren't.
It was Flake's Bridge and...
10 million.
Ooh.
Is there a different kind of design for this one that we could build where we wouldn't have potentially these scour issues and trees catching on the pylons, or is there something that you recommend? It seems like that's an issue.
Well, one of the things we would do is we would probably do fewer spans. We'd be doing more 100-foot spans. I don't know what the spans are on this. These are probably 60, 70-foot spans. So these girders are as deep as I am tall, and the spans they'd all be 100-foot or so. If it's a 400-foot bridge, we'd probably try to do it in 4 spans. That removes some of that opportunity for debris to catch. There's less things in the water to catch debris. There's less cost. The more substructure units you have, substructure units are expensive in the river. You have to go in and drive sheet pile, and excavate down, way down, and it's hugely expensive to do substructure. So the practice now is for the beams to get a lot longer than maybe what was built back in the 50s when these were done.
Could you put a new bridge over an existing place, or is that at expense? Is it cheaper to move it north or south away so you're not dealing with the old?
It gets done, and it's fine to do an alignment change. You know, the thing you always say is it's because you want to prevent the inconvenience to the traveling public for that summer. The thing you don't want to do, so you can look at it, you don't want to create a little curve in the road that's a safety hazard for the next 75 years because we wanted to not close a bridge for a summer. So, but we have done that. I don't know if you guys would be familiar at Hudson in Hudson, South Dakota. It's in Lincoln County. It's right on the Big Sioux River into Iowa. It just happens to have a couple curves coming into it, so we were able to go back a couple thousand feet and rebuild those curves so they could maintain it, because their lifeblood was corn going to the ethanol plant coming out of Iowa. There was a lot of, you're not closing our bridge for 1 second, let alone a summer. So we did that one. So it does happen sometimes, but my recollection of this is a pretty straight road, and I would really hesitate to want to put a bank in it. Unless you guys can come up with a grander alignment scheme that would make sense, but I don't see it. So yeah, there's always challenges.
And this bridge has not had a bridge improvement grant on it, is that correct?
Correct. I'll talk about that a little. We want to move into the kind of the closing, or you guys want to? One of the things, and I think I tried to say this last time, I don't know if I got it out very clearly. So this is your prioritization. When we had not inspected all of your bridges, when Brian made the decision to kind of start on these rehab projects, that was sort of, he did that on his own. He didn't really, he just didn't, he did the best he could. They're all about the same era of construction, and this is based on previous conversations with him. And it's the busiest one. Obviously that's the one we would do first, I think, was his thought process. And he was thinking, okay, I'm going to push at those guys to do this one, but I need to make sure these other three last. So that same mindset, and we had talked with him about it before that, but that same mindset he had, and he picked that one. As we started going into these and doing, Stone's Church is the one that they didn't find the plans, right? So when we did the load rating on Stone Church, the load ratings always before had just been a guess. We went looking for the plans, and we actually found the original plans and did our load rating based on the plans. I actually think Brian tracked them down. Yeah, Brian tracked them down. So that, we kind of threw a curveball at him, and that's why I think if he had it to do over again, if we were making if we had made these decisions 5 years ago, or it started on this 10 years ago, I think we might be already building one of these. We'd have pushed you guys along, and maybe we wouldn't have had to go off to the side and do some rehab and spend that money. But we are where we are. So, the past is the past. That's why, we're focused on which one we want to do and trying to prioritize that. And so it's good that we did the rehab on two of the other ones, but maybe we could have done Fleegs. To me, so I'm going to just talk through this a little bit and kind of retouch on some points. So they're all four up there. They go from 52 to 62. Fleegs was built earlier. It's a little different, but the general basis of the structure is all the same. They built it narrower, very high ADT. So they're all the same service life. They're all going to come to an end if we do nothing. If we rehabbed all four of them, they'd all last us 20, maybe 25 years, maybe 30 years. But they're all essentially going to start coming due at the same time, and it's prudent for you guys to start planning. So we go over to the right and we look at those sufficiency ratings. Jamesville is high, but actually we purposefully kind of showed you a lot of defects in the PowerPoint on Jamesville. A lot of those little things that we said, well, that's not a big deal, it's a little spall. In 10 years, those little spalls, those things have a way of really starting to decline as they get to the end. Jamesville and Johnson seem to be in the best shape. Fleegs is in pretty good shape. And again, remember I said that's the combination of the ADT and the narrower deck that's causing that one to go for the sufficiency rating. So obviously we're interested in getting, as much of this paid for through the big program as we possibly can. So the ones we should be targeting or thinking about working on are the ones with the lower sufficiency rating. So with that in my mind, your priority is Stone Church or Fleegs. From the posting standpoint, Stone Church is posted the lowest, and it's, like I said, it's a little bit lighter structure, so it's really hard for us to do much with that. But if, for instance, we were to make a decision that that was going to be the one you would do in the next 5 years, we would definitely be looking at that calculated LFR, which would actually be essentially as good or better than it was posted before. You guys are committing to be done in 5 years. We're going to go to the least conservative bridge inspection methodology that we're allowed to use. So that's sort of our thought process there. If you're saying you're going to go on Fleegs to do it in 10 years, that's the next priority. The next priority, I don't know if Jamesville or Johnson would be the next one. Frankly, one or the other might deteriorate faster, so we don't have to make that decision. That's a ways down the road. But I think looking at those first two as a priority and maybe really thinking about doing the one, and if you can commit to doing all of those, I really think we can get those up to legal loads. But if you're not, I don't. This is an interesting thing, and I want to help you guys have an institutional memory. So you're feeling the ramifications of decisions that were made before, and you don't understand those decisions. And someday there's going to be people who replace you guys. So one of the things that's really good is if we can document these things, put a study in the highway department office, and in the future we can at least they have a starting point for how to make those decisions. So to me, it's important that we lay this out, even though it seems silly to be sort of trying to pre-decide something we're going to do 15 years from now. It's something to remember when you're weighing that against township bridges that we'll talk about at some point that need to be replaced. So if you guys can move on that bridge priority, you know, to me the real decision, and I don't want to tell you what to do, but it's Stone Church or Fleegs is the first one. And it's sort of how bad that posting bothers you. And to me, I guess obviously our recommendation was Stone Church. So if you guys can agree with that, I think that allows us to then have that conversation about the posting, maybe improve that. We're not going to get the posting off of it, but we can get it as high as possible, knowing that it's going to be replaced.
How much money through the bridge improvement grant did we spend on Stone Church already? Are you aware? Is it going to be a significant amount that would affect us paying a larger share of a bridge replacement on Stone Church?
I think all three, the three bridges, one project total was 600,000,
okay,
somewhere around there. So 200,000, give or take.
Probably a little more on the one with the splices.
And 80% of that is that grant amount. That's what will be counted against you for that $4 million in 5 years or whatever that stipulation is.
That's $4 million over 4 years?
It's like $1 million a year, isn't it? Doesn't it average out about $1 million?
I think yeah, 4 over 4 years.
Something like that.
It's assuming we get one every 4 years, too.
Well, you got to be positive, right?
The total of the big was 16 million last year for the whole state.
Yeah, it just went up this past year and to the highest level, and it's really a crapshoot. It's been so you look at these. So to talk about that, we go over and we look at these big scores. So one of the things. So I've got a big score over there with the LFR and the LRFR. I had talked about if we're going to build one real soon, that maybe we want to not raise the posting, because the lower the posting, the more it affects our big score. Adam went back and recalculated those big scores based on those efficiency rating, and because it's posted fairly low either way, it really doesn't affect the big score. So we can help the public as much as we possibly can with the load rating on that and not affect it. 46 is a low score. If you were to want to do Fleegs, we'd want to keep that posting a little lower to keep that big score up a little higher. If you want us to say you're going to get big grant, you probably need to get over 60 on that score. So there's some work to be done. Again, there's 5 years. We're not saying to do this next year. We're not going to apply for a big grant next year. So that score that will go down. the sufficiency rating, things will happen. It'll be slowly deteriorating. So those sufficiency ratings go down, so your score will come up. And I hope that we're going to start catching up on some things, and maybe that threshold you have to get funding is going to start to come down, in particular now that they've doubled the funding in the last year, and that's going to continue on. So maybe if over a 50 we'll do it. Some things you can do that can help with that, and I think Brian was thinking hard about this, is you can do what they call bid ready, is you can do everything just like you actually get a DOT project number and everything, but you pay for everything up front and cash flow it and get it all ready, and then they give you 10 points, correct, on your big score. So for instance, Stone Church, if you were willing to invest in that, and we're not suggesting you do that at all now, but you know, in 3 years, 4 years, if that score has come up and maybe it's over 50 and you do that, now you're over 60, and in the end you get it back, you're just investing the money, it becomes part of your match. The other thing you can do to improve your big score is you can 80-20 is the max. The maximum amount of the funding you can get for a project is 80%. Some counties are more aggressive, and they're doing routinely, you know, 70-30 or 60-40. So those are things you have to. It's a little bit of a game of cards.
Is that a 1-for-1 onto your big score? Percentage split.
So for every 10% more you put in, you get 3.33%. So if you went up to a 70-30 split where the county pays 30%, you get an extra 3.33 points. Up to the maximum is 50-50 split, and you get 10 points for that. That's the maximum you can get by putting more money in.
What are the options around Jamesville Ridge for bypassing it?
By bypass, you mean like a permanent?
Or Stone Church, yeah.
You got, don't you have 37 that goes through the colony?
You want to take that, I think.
North, and you got Jamesville to the east, I believe.
A bypass detour for Jamesville?
For Stone Church.
For Stone Church, you would either have Highway 25, which goes through Scotland, or 81.
You want us to pull the map up so you guys can look at that?
Jamesville would be the same thing. If you don't want to detour them on another county bridge, you know.
Well, how many miles is it?
Oh, I thought we were,
Roughly.
well, from the Menno Road, say, if you're, well, from the Menno Road to 25 on 46, you're probably talking 6 miles. And then, well, to 81 from Menno Road, you're probably talking another, not quite 12, probably 10.
I think I have.
Detour length is part of the big score. So Adam's got that somewhere, but he's going to have to look that up so we can tell you the detour we use for the calculation.
You're not looking for a decision tonight on what?
No.
The detour that we have for Stone Church is 10 miles. And that only takes into account the way you would not normally travel on that road. So the Stone Church is north-south, so it only counts the miles you go east and west from that. So you must go 5 miles, let's say, to the west, and then it does not count the north-south that you would have to drive on that bridge anyway, and then 5 miles back. So this one is a 10-mile.
How long does it take, you know, for Stone Church, for example, how long do you think would it take a whole year to build that, or how long would that bridge be closed? Plan on a year?
I think you'd be looking at a construction season. Okay. You know, the typical thing you try to do on more of a major bridge where you don't have one every mile, is you'd want to program that so you could bid that, you know, late in the year, the fall, the year before, or certainly early in the year. So the girders and some of those things that take girders can be 90 or 120 days or more out, depending on when you start a project. So you want to have those available so as the contractor goes to work, all his materials are there. So if you did something like that, you know, you certainly could have it done by harvest. That's usually an important thing to people, you know, the people who are using it, that's when they need it the most. So I don't think there's any reason that you couldn't have it done over the summer and done by harvest. If you want to go faster, you can say 60 days, but you're going to pay for it. So that becomes, you know, multiple cranes, and it forces a different sized contractor. Maybe it'll be a bigger contractor from a little further away who's gonna cost more. So I would think you'd be looking at trying to make sure we got it started early so we could have all the materials on hand when they go to work in the spring, you know, April, and in there probably late March or April, tearing the old structure out. It can still be pretty cold. Got to be careful. We don't want to start building anything until the spring flood is gone. But yeah, they could get right after it, and by, you know, end August, early September, have it open and ready to go for harvest. That's what I would suspect that we would end up doing. That's usually the best value.
Just for reference, the Moody County Bridge that we were talking about, it was a 3-span pre-stress girder bridge. It was 242 feet over the Big Sioux. They started that right after Memorial Day weekend, and they got it done right around Halloween. And that was with all the rain that we had this summer, and there was other circumstances in there too. That one took a little longer. It shouldn't have took that long, but that was a quick reference.
One thing to be thinking about when we say we're going to build that in 5 years, and I you know, if you said, I've said or 7, so if you apply for a big grant in 5 years, it's probably about 2 years through the process before you're going to get it. You know, they give us 4 months to do a design, and then it sits in pier for, I'm making fun of the DOT, it sits in pier for 8 months while they review it, and then, you know, they send something back to us, and we have it for a little while and back and forth. But just that process, there's some environmental permitting processes the DOT has to go through that takes some time. You know, the Corps of Engineers, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, all different kinds of agencies will review something like this. And a lot of those people have 90-day review periods. So it's really, from the time you get the grant, you're looking at not the next year, but the next year you have it built, so.
So what's your recommendation for us decide if what we want?
I think the Stone Church makes the most sense because the posting always makes people suffer, and I don't know. I think the sheriff was here earlier, but if it's something you want to ask, maybe it's a good question. We thought about this, but didn't get to it in enough time to ask. Is are there accidents there? Let's take a look at it. If it hasn't been a safety concern, then maybe that does make sense to make that number 2, and maybe you guys are aware if there's been accidents there.
I think we would like to have a recommendation on your bridge priority. After we have your bridge priority, we can, you know, work with you on the posting strategy, figure that out. One thing, it's got to be kind of quick. We send this stuff into the DOT, they send it out to the feds, and we got to get this stuff posted as soon as possible. We got to figure this out so Mike can get the signs ordered and get them posted.
With the change and Brian leaving, at that late last year is when we really should have been having these conversations with you, and Brian was leaving, and then we ran into you're seating a new commission, and so we kind of put that off. So we are, not to put pressure on you, but a little bit under the gun on that. Not us. Mike's the one who's going to get the nasty letter from the DOT if we don't have kind of the documentation behind what's on the streets figured out. It's simple for us to do. So to me, if you want to know, we can look at that sheet. The mouse. I like the idea of Stone Church being 1. Again, Brian had Fleegs as 1. So I'm okay either way. There's no wrong answer in this. They both have a sufficiency rating that gives us some reasonable chance, and the big scores that we can get a big score to an area where we can reasonably expect to get some funding in 5 years. So I think either one of those is a reasonable choice. If you pick the Stone Church to go first, I think the posting will go from this 11-13 that we have out there or have suggested for now up to this 2023. Historically, that has been, again, this was the one there were no plans on, so they had just kind of pulled out of the air what the rating would be. They were at 1424. So I think that's an improvement. So I think we'd be improving things. We'd make people happy and move that forward. If Fleegs is ready to go, and you're thinking 10 years and you're willing to let us sort of write that down on paper, that's a good justification for us to say we're going to go to 24-ton legal on Fleegs. 24-ton is your typical single unit. If you guys looked at those handouts we sent that had all those tank-looking things with all those wheels on them, those are special hauling units. because you can get 6,000 pounds on each of those axles for your spring load limits. They're really popular with quarries and that type of thing, but you don't see that in the agricultural community. So that's really not a deal. This 24 is basically your typical single unit load. So you're basically not posting this other than for sort of special vehicles. So that'd be a real nice thing.
Is that?
I find it really hard to justify a road bridge that gets used 78.
That's John?
I know.
Yeah.
That's gotta be low, but 2,200 versus 315, 7 times as much traffic.
I can't argue. I wouldn't even dream to. It really is why we wanted to get this conversation and get you guys with enough of an understanding to really, that's a perfectly valid decision. That was Brian's decision, and then I think the posting, when we started throwing that posting at him again, not knowing that it was coming at any time, that's when that started to become a priority for him because he was feeling the heat because of the posting. So I think it makes sense, and that's the next one then, obviously.
Is that the reasoning, Don, for institutional knowledge, is because the traffic count was so much higher? Is that kind of the reasoning you had?
Right.
And there's other issues with the scouring, and that bridge has been problematic.
It's the railroad bridge. You said it's safe. I think you said the railroad bridge with the riprap that you put around it makes it safe now.
Your bridge is safe. Bridge. I'm not familiar with that, and they're probably
it's
fine.
sitting right to the south of it. You know where it's at. You were on it when you took the picture, and you see the big scour that goes back. We need railroad too. I don't want to see that fall in the river.
Yeah, is that a BN, or are you guys familiar with who owns that track? BN. Well, they're really easy to work with. So I mean, so we know people at the BN, and we could talk to them about that, and they're going to be protected as much as you. That would be a nice project to try to share with them. Of course, their answer will be to dump a bunch of riprap right adjacent to their bridge and move on.
Well, my vote for it would be for Flake's #1.
Well, I got a question on the calculated LFR for fleets. We got 24 legal. Historically, that's been at 80,000 pounds.
I think historically it's been at 2433.
No.
Well,
Yeah,
that just happened in the last year.
Okay.
Yeah, so when we talk about legal loads, a legal load for that first combination truck is 80,000. So instead of putting a sign out there that says 2440, the DOT is allowing us to do 24 legal. Means the same, about the same thing. So
Well,
the
we have 7 axles.
The 2440 would limit the semi with the pup behind it, because you can have 92,000 on that. I believe that's 46 ton. When you say 24 legal, that means both of those combination trucks are legal to cross.
If I got 84,000 pound plates, am I legal on that bridge?
I'm not familiar with.
They're 86. I think there's a.
As long as you follow the state statute for what is considered legal loads, that would be legal.
Okay. Before it was 80.
To my knowledge.
One of the things that happens a lot of times is if you're a farmer or a truck driver or something, and you have there isn't as good a correlation between the things that are told to us to design by and what's legal on the road as you would think. You'd think people would improve that, but I don't know if it's the legislatures that haven't. So if you're a legal truck, when we say legal, in anything that is a legal combination truck, which is a tractor and a trailer, a trailer and a pup, is legal. Okay. So it's unrestricted. So basically, any straight truck, your typical old grain truck or a school bus, that's all the longer vehicle with that extra axle or 2 in the back, that's legal. If it doesn't have a trailer, it's basically that 24 should cover it, and it should be legal. Okay. So that's good.
So are you saying that the Flake Bridge is an 80,000 pound bridge?
Is that Kevin?
Yes. We don't speak in terms of 80,000 pound, but yes, it's legal.
Okay.
Or we could make it legal if we get some agreement that we're going to prioritize that.
Well, what is it now?
33.
In discussion. it's been in flux a little bit over the last several months, so sometimes I don't, what was it 3 years ago? That was the...
It was 2440 3 years ago. Right now, the weight limit sign has the 2433. And that's the calculated LRFR.
So if we could move to 24 legal, let's go down the path that it's priority number 2, it's 10 to 12 years out. Is there any reason we wouldn't just run 24-ton legal and drop that to the LRFR rating year before we apply for a grant?
Probably don't want it to be quite so obvious, but yes. Yes. One of the reasons that we want to make sure that we can document something, and this literally becomes a record on the bridge. There's a file in Pier on this bridge. So Adam's going to put a memo together with our posting recommendation based on a discussion with you. These decisions are sort of yours, so we're putting it in there of why we're doing it. So in the future, if a future commission decides to think about that a little differently because they're starting to have some problems and we want to be aggressive because it's got to last until we get the new one in there, seems perfectly reasonable that we would be a little more aggressive with the methodology for posting.
I just see,
So,
going
yes.
the LRFR, it's going to preserve it, but if we can't use it, it's not worth preserving, I guess, is my
Yes.
thought.
All right, I guess, looks like we gotta have a community decision on which one's gonna be the main priority and let you know. When would you like a decision?
Mike, what's your deadline for getting stuff to the state so you don't get a letter
For this,
for the load limits?
would you say about a month?
It's us who has to get it to the state. It's basically we're going to do, because we didn't have this we were supposed to have this done at the end of the year, but because we didn't, the person at the DOT who runs this you probably talked to him, right? So he's aware that we're going to be coming with some information on this.
Yeah, I can look into that a little bit more.
And so are we talking next commission meeting?
That'd be nice.
We need to
That'd be nice, yes.
put that on the agenda for making a decision?
And just because you pick today, I mean, I think the key to us is that you maybe put those top 2 as the priority. Then we can make those decisions and kind of get you guys where you'll be happiest. And there's nothing the decision you make today doesn't mean in 4 years, all of a sudden, you're hearing, oh, the Stone Creek Bridge is terrible, we got to fix that, or it's not going to last 3 more years. Obviously, that might, or the Johnson or something else. Until you apply for a grant, you can always revisit it.
We gotta start headed down that path, though, so.
Yeah, now the money that was used on Johnson, the big fund, has there been any money used on the Fleeg from that fund?
No.
No. So then that would, I guess I'd have to agree with Don, because then that would be the bridge to work on.
Well, and it doesn't matter what, my understanding, it doesn't matter what bridge it goes to. Even though we've spent dollars on the other ones, it doesn't penalize you or anything, right?
I think we would like, if you wanted me to say my dream, it would be that our thought process at this point, our decision, our working plan, a plan isn't done until it's done. Our working plan is that the Stone Church Bridge and the Fleegs Bridge will work to build one of those in 5 years and one of those in 10 years. And we'll make the decision on which one happens first in 3 or 4 years.
All right. Any other question from the commissioners? Well, we really appreciate you coming out and giving us this in-depth brief, and we've got a lot of tough decisions to make. So.
Mr. Chairman, we had those other 2.
Yep.
Did you want to touch on those quick? Or?
Go, while you're here, better do it.
Can I just ask one thing about, so the next thing that would be appropriate for us to do, I had talked about last time, was just have a little bit of a discussion about all of the county bridges, and then we would maybe have a third or fourth, whatever we're up to, discussion about the township bridges. So obviously the county bridges, they're not all at the end of their service life, so if we think in terms of red, we should do something about yellow, we're getting close, and green, you don't really need to think about. Maybe we come in and we show you a map that says green, unless you guys want to talk about one, we're not going to talk about these with you. Yellow, we're not going to talk about these unless one of them is interesting to you, or Mike finds something about that one that maybe you guys should be aware of. And then maybe we'll hit the highlights of the red ones in an even shorter version than what we did today. and give you a recommendation on prioritizations that you guys can think about on that one, and maybe address that in a few weeks, if that works for you guys?
That sounds good.
Okay.
All right, so I'll go briefly over the 2 project updates that we had. These are small structures that will be replaced with pipes by the county forces. The first one is, this is midway here. This is the county line. We're up here. The Stone Church Bridge is right in here. So we're just up the road and to the west. This one currently is a 29-foot 2-span steel girder bridge, so fairly small. We're putting in 3 7-foot diameter corrugated metal pipes. And this is a cost-effective way to get rid of those red bridges, the smaller ones on the township roads. The next one.
How wide do you make them then? Are they wide enough for large machinery and equipment to go over?
So the roadway will be 20 feet wide, and there will be no obstructions. The signs will be at the end of the pipes, way out. So yeah, wide machinery will be able to get across those.
How wide is a typical digger?
Well, digger?
Yeah. A field tillage piece of equipment.
Well, it isn't the equipment so much as it is, you got a tractor or a combine with duals and triple on, and then you're getting out to, you really don't want to meet anybody.
But is it 40 feet or 20 feet?
20 feet.
20 feet, okay.
The second one here, this is Mayfield, and here's Midway, and we're up here. We're 2 miles south of the North County line. This one is currently a 22-foot single-span steel girder, and we're putting in 3 5-foot diameter corrugated metal pipes.
So from the equipment standpoint, because we're going from a bridge that has guardrails on the side to a pipe that doesn't have anything, there is really no restriction. It'll be no different than any other culvert under the road. The traveling farmer trying to move equipment won't even notice.
Apologize for, go ahead, Don. Apologize for going long here, but I appreciate the discussion.
One last thing on those. So we talked about 3.7 million and all those. Those are the really, that's one end. The other end of the spectrum is really these. I think the engineering on these was 12,000 versus 200,000 on one of those big bridges. And the construction is being done by Mike's guys. He might have $50,000, $60,000 in parts. So we're doing these for 75,000. So this is about as cheap as we can do them. And there's a lot of opportunity to do those, and I think you'll, Brian did one, where was that, in the park over by, Gavin's Place, you guys are familiar with that, so we're gonna push to do a lot of those. When we start talking about township bridges later on, you're gonna hear us talking about that kind of a thing a lot, because it's the most economical way to do it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead and take a 5-minute break, everybody. Entertain a motion to go back into regular session.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Back in regular session. Next item on the agenda, item number 14, health insurance. Julie Fisher. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
Welcome. Good evening. Thanks for having us tonight. Our purpose tonight here is to just visit, if you will, the health insurance renewal that you're becoming out soon, which is June 1st, I believe, which is right around the corner because the actual renewal from Wellmark should be coming out the first week to 10 days of March. So you should be able to have that renewal in your hands rather within the first 10 days of March. So tonight we just wanted to do a little bit of education about health insurance in general, since it is a huge line item budget for you. Maybe give you some other options that are possible that you might want to include in on a bid for this coming year. Maybe touch on HSAs. I brought along my general agency guy that is from Fisher Rounds that we work our insurance through. He is going to give you some examples of HSAs, talk about those, how they've implemented or how we've implemented them into groups, and educating the employees, whether it's a group employee meeting or a one-on-one sitting. So I'm going to turn it over to him because he's the out-of-town expert tonight, and I have a packet ready for all of you so you can follow along. Lonnie McKittrick from Rapid City.
Well, good evening, everyone. I was just sitting there listening to all the stuff that's going on and just reminded me why I never ran for city or county commission meeting. It's a lot of wrap your head around. So what the purpose tonight, we're asked to come in, just give a little information. I think what my relationship, just to get it with Julie, is that I am a general agency for Wellmark Blue Cross Blue Shield.
What was your name so we can get it in
Lonnie
minutes?
McKittrick.
Thank you.
So with that, we just, I get the questions a lot because we insure about 650 groups through our agency across the state of South Dakota. And the big question that we always get from business owners and other groups are kind of what is everybody doing? Are we out there kind of on our own and so forth? So tonight we just kind of want to talk about maybe just what a lot of our the larger groups are doing in a different concept than maybe just keep doing the same old thing. Most of the large groups that we do have a dual option, which are two different plans. It kind of works nice from an employer standpoint because it doesn't appear that you're just saying, here it is, take it or leave it. It kind of gives two different ways of, what might work for one might not work the best for others. So you're currently on a PPO plan, which I understand. I haven't seen your plan in particular, but just again to kind of take the concept a little bit farther, what we did at my agency, we have about 117 employees now. And we do this dual option with the PPO and an HSA. I don't know, anybody have any background with HSAs or, Okay, so it's not new. They came out in '95. It's just that they weren't real prevalent because there was a lack of education on how to do them. So we've been doing them for, all these years, but it's really starting to pick up, some steam just because they are so user-friendly. So what I wanted to accomplish tonight was just to kind of go through what the ins and outs of the HSAs and the flexibility that they actually do have. Okay, so in the packets that Julie sent out, I'm not going to go through all the stuff in there. That was more, there's some good general information on questions and answers that are commonly asked on HSAs. And we'll also get into what you can use these HSA funds and contributions for are listed. We put those in there as well. So first, let's just kind of break it down to the insurance portion of it is really simple. It's a high deductible health plan, HDHP, okay? There's no bells and whistles to it. There's no copays. There's no drug cards, no office visits. It's just flat. You got a deductible, and once the deductible is met, then you go into 100% after that for the rest of the year. Okay, so doctors, hospitals, prescriptions, they all apply towards that one deductible, and then after that, you're home free, the employee is for the rest of the year. Okay, the only thing that doesn't need to be met, deductible does not need to be met, is on preventative, because preventative with the ACA rules are covered 100% on all the plans. So that's in simple terms is the health insurance. Whoever the carrier is that you would decide to go into, it's just that is the insurance portion of it. The portion where people get confused is the actual HSA or health savings account portion of it. This is an account that can be, you can use a vendor to send it up, a third-party vendor, or you can just go down to your local bank and set up an HSA account. The contributions that go into this account are tax-free. Okay, so if you have a
as an employer, if you do these contributions and you payroll deduct them, the employee, say if they're in a 20% federal tax bracket, they get the 20% pre-tax, and then the 765 FICA is also part of the savings. So for the employee, the amount of the contribution goes in there. For somebody in a 20% tax bracket is, you're looking at the 27.65% savings on your services that you can pay for. So we're all looking to figure out ways to offset premiums and come up with ideas and all this stuff. So with pre-taxing of these contributions over here is just a real simple way of getting the best bang for your buck. So not only do they get the 20% in the 765, but as an employer, you save the 765 if the employer does contributions into the account for the employee. The rules with the contributions, excuse me, are just simply in 2019, the max for a single plan can't exceed $3,500 between employer and employee contributions. And if you're in a family or an employee spouse or employee child or children, it's $7,000 is the max. So you get people that are maxing it out, and some people that'll just be, you can put whatever you want into it. There isn't anything to say, if you're used to seeing, like, I'm going to use the flex plan, the Section 125 or flex plan, every year they have to indicate how much they're going to put into that account at the beginning of the year. So if they say withhold $100 a month for me, you cannot increase or decrease the amount of contribution during that year. On the HSA, you can put money in, fund it for 6 months and just go, okay, I'm done. I don't want to put any more in. So that's, ironically, when they say flex accounts, they're not flexible compared to what an HSA is. So the dollars that go into these accounts, not only are that flexible, but they're not a use it or lose it like the flex accounts. So you put the money in, you don't use them at the end of the year, you don't have to go rush to the dentist or go get some new glasses because you got to use up all your flex account money. These carry over each year. So the key concept of the HSA is consumerism. It's trying to get the employees more involved in their health insurance. Because currently, nothing against PPO plans, but you get some people that go, I get a $25 office visit copay and I get a hangnail. I'm going to go in because it's only $25. The money that goes into their account is their money. Regardless, if they retire or quit or move to another job, that money goes with them. It's their money. So when it comes down to using your money, we're all a little bit more frugal with that than using somebody else's money. So the idea behind it is, if you're sitting over there and you got a hangnail, do you go, well, I can go and pay $25, or it's going to cost me $350 to go to the doctor's office? People are going to think a little bit. But also, it's kind of on the prescription side of things over there. There's name brands that are $300 a month, and then there's an exact same generic that is $25. Right now, there's not a real penalty, so to speak, with the copay difference in there, but the dollar amount, if they're paying for it, is a huge difference. So it really gets them more involved into the process of using their health care. So that's kind of the, if you look in your packet, you can see the list of the amount of stuff that you can use it for. It's all the way down, not only for stuff that is covered underneath the health insurance and applies towards the deductible, but you can use it for glasses, ortho, any kind of dentist, those type of things. So it's truly the amount of services that you can pay through that is really quite broad. So the key is the money goes in tax-free, and if you take it out for one of the qualified medical expenses, it comes out tax-free as well. So how many transactions of the IRS do you have that you get a tax break on the way in and you don't get a tax penalty on the way out? These are one of the only one that I'm aware of that you can pull that off with. Somebody could use it for a lot of different purposes. So I'm going to use, we have an attorney group that there's 5 attorneys that are in there. They're all in families. They fully fund through their firm the family maximum contributions each year, with the understanding none of them are going to use them for medical expenses. They're using it because they don't have any other tax-deferred retirement opportunities. So, so they put the whole $7,000 in, and that thing just accumulates. And then in retirement time, at age 65, it works very similar to an IRA, except IRAs are 59.5 before you have the 10% penalty. It's age 65 on an HSA with a 20% early withdrawal, plus the taxes. Okay, so those are things that you just don't think of, that the way people are using these. So good flexibility with them, but kind of the bottom line is that, you know, if you give the employee a couple different options, you know, it can kind of maybe form fit closer to what they want to look at and fit their needs for the most part. So the key deal always is if you can save some money as the employer to make the contributions in, because I can tell you everybody likes the $25 copay. You know, if they have a deductible in front there, if you can save money and put money in for the employees, it really becomes attractive at that point. We do it when we set these up, we stay budget neutral. So you look at what the premium rate is for the PPO, you look at what the premium rate is for the HSA, the difference between what you're contributing in the PPO and the HSA, that's the money that you can loosen up and put in the account. So if you're fortunate to come home and say, well, shoot, we save, on a single, we save $70 a month for them to go into the HSA, put the $70 into the account for them. So that's just, you know, like I said, didn't want to get real long-winded with you on this stuff, but it's, you always want to get, you know, get these ideas coming out early rather than get your back against the wall, and just kind of whet your appetite a little bit about what concepts are out there and what other folks are doing. Okay?
What's a common plan for that type of account for a deductible?
Well, the minimum to actually qualify as a high deductible plan is $1,250 on a single. So you're seeing the common one of being $2,500, $3,000. There's a $2,500, $3,500, and a $5,000 deductible. So it gets to be a numbers game. So you look over there and you just go, okay, the $5,000 sounds a lot, but if you're saving enough money in there, you know, where you can fund $100 a month, you know, that's first dollar coverage for $1,200 for them without them putting a dime in there. So then it starts getting, you know, starts getting a lot more attractive. So if you look at the $5,000, because I think you currently have a $2,500 deductible and $5,000 out-of-pocket maximum for the employees now. So if you had a $5,000 HSA deductible, it's the same out-of-pocket maximum that they would have in their PPO plan. It's just that you can free up money to put into their accounts for them to subsidize it. So, but you just need to sit down and look at the numbers is the key with it. It's how much, you know, and sometimes it makes sense and sometimes maybe it doesn't. But it just really comes down to the numbers, and sometimes you're just shocked to see the differences that are in there. And I know when we started at my agency, it's been 13, 14 years ago, we did put the second option in, and you know, the first year we only had 5 that went into it, and it was just basically I didn't do a good job educating the employees. Kind of pulled the trigger at the last minute, and it does take education and to help the employees understand it. So now at this stage of the game over there, we've got around 90% of our employees are in the HSA.
When they quit or leave, they can either transfer it and use it for medical purposes
They cannot cash it in, though.
They can cash it in. They can go ahead and go buy a car, go to Vegas.
They can, okay.
But if it's done before age 65, it's 20% penalty in the taxes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, they can literally do anything they want with it, but on the other hand, over there, if they leave and they go to another employer that doesn't have a high deductible health plan, they still get to use those funds for the same things they did. They just can't put any more new monies into it. So, and they can deplete it, or they can wait till, they can use it for COBRA premiums. If they're interim between jobs and they need to activate COBRA, they can use that for the COBRA premium, tax-free. Or you can wait till age 65 and you go on Medicare, and you can use the funds to pay Medicare as well. So a lot of people are kind of sandbagging, for retirement as best they can anyway, and use it for that purpose.
So after 65, is there any penalty?
You pay the tax. The 20% goes away. It's just the taxes if you use it for non-qualified medical expenses. But if you use it for qualified medical expenses, again, back to vision and dental and so forth like that, it comes out completely scot-free.
That's my understanding. You can use that retroactive throughout your whole life as long as you have receipts for those medical expenses.
Yeah,
You paid
Yep.
taxable monies towards that.
Yeah. Kind of an odd case that I had a few years back was a CPA, that client of mine, that he pays all his expenses right out of his checkbook, not out of his HSA account, fully funds his HSA account, but keeps all his receipts basically in his shoebox. I was like, what are you doing? I was just like, well, rainy day fund. So if he needed this, so all the receipts are documented, he can go over there and write himself a check for that all those expenses that he had going way back to, day one. So, a guy has $25,000 in his HSA account, and he pulls out his receipts, and he's got $10,000 worth of receipts in there. He writes a check to himself and comes out tax-free. So, really kind of interesting concept. It's just a lot of education with the employees, and that's again kind of why we're here tonight, is to maybe throw it out there and see if there's interest, and we'd be more than happy to spend whatever time educating employees on it as well. So, any questions for me?
I think you explained it well.
Okay. Well, I'll turn it back over to Julie then. Thank you.
So when your Patty, if you will, when the renewal comes in, which should be within the next couple weeks, 10 days into March, let me know, and then we'll get a quote with several companies, which right now it's with Wellmark, so we'll probably bring in an Avera quote or vice versa, or compare everything apples to apples, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, item number 15, town hall meetings. Healy.
Well, hopefully make this quick. I don't have a whole lot. We discussed getting out to the different communities in the neighborhoods. I guess I need to know what people's thoughts are on, do we want 2 people out, 1 person out? I guess I envision 2 people kind of on rotating shifts, and we talked about 6 locations last time, 2 a year. So starting January, and this is at random, Yankton, Utica, Mayfield, Gayville, Lesterville, Cottonwood, and then rotate back through Yankton. Covers all 12 months. So we get to every location 2 times a year. If it's something people want to do.
I think so, and I think 2 commissioners would be good. That way, if someone gets ill on the day they need to be there, at least there's 1 commissioner who shows up.
Right. Yep. And it's going to have to be probably up to those 2 scheduled for that to get it scheduled and find something that works.
Yep, I agree with that. So March is what?
Mayfield.
Mayfield.
And Utica actually sort of was covered. Dan, you were?
Yeah, I went to Utica town meeting last night, and they were very appreciative of us coming out there, and just a lot of exciting things happening in Utica, and they're real committed to, growth of their town, and so it's great, and they really appreciated having somebody out there.
I would volunteer for March. Mayfield.
I can do March.
Okay, so Loest and Healy are up for March, and then who's April? Or where is April?
April is Gayville.
I'll do April.
So Don and,
I'll go with you, Don. Do you want to go to maybe the town board meeting or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it's the first Monday of the month, but I'm not sure.
so do we want to schedule 3 at a time? And then when we
I
get
can
close, we
kinda just
schedule
keep
3
it
more?
running, and I'll just
Yeah,
send updates
so
to whoever.
That'd be fine.
Do we want to try to time it at a specific time, or do you want to just say Dan and Don go visit Gayfield
Yep, I think-
at some point? Because April might not work, but March might. Would that work better?
Yeah,
Okay.
that works. That's what I envisioned. Is
Okay.
you gotta find a location and make it work with them,
Okay.
and
Yeah. sounds good.
Advertise.
advertise.
Do we got to add, or I think Don and I were just going to go to the board meeting at Utica. Do you want us to let the board know ahead of time, or what did you mean by
Yeah,
advertise?
you need to. Well,
Okay.
like what I envision with Joe and I going out to Mayfield is so all the folks in that area can come visit with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so
And
I
I
think
think
it
the
needs to be in the
intent-
paper at least once, maybe
Right.
twice.
Okay.
And I guess I think the intent is to just be more of like a listening session, but whatever the
Yep.
community has going on, let us know, and we can try to update people on what's happening, but
Yes.
nothing too formal, I guess. Okay.
Right. Sounds good. All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda, 15A, that was you, Don, band personnel.
Yeah. I got several calls from members of the planning and zoning and people that had been involved in construction of CAFOs that had indicated that they'd been contacted and were requested or told that they were not to come into this building, and in particular the county and zoning office. And, I guess it surprised me I didn't know the answer, but there's been a lot of conversation of it going around the community, and I think it's important for us to put it on a table and visit upon.
I had received one phone call from a concerned citizen asking me pretty much the same thing. And I didn't have an answer.
As far as I know, nobody should be banned for any reason. Who did the ban them, I guess, Don?
Well, I think the message, as I understood it, was you and Joe had indicated to them that, and to planning and zoning staff that they were not supposed to have people come.
That's not true, Don.
That's not even close to true.
That is.
It is true. Don't sit there and lie about it and back it up.
Hey, we're gonna maintain respect here, okay? Stop it.
You stop it.
Jeff,
Okay, you do that again, and I'm getting the sheriff here, and you're gonna be removed.
Jeff, just.
Have you heard anything about that, Eric?
I haven't heard anything. And I've had no phone calls or nobody approached me about anything. This is all brand new to me.
I drove to Kansas City Friday afternoon, and I got, I believe, 7 calls on a trip down there, all with the same message.
I can assure you that I said nothing even remotely close to that. In fact, I talked with Pat. It's been a month or two, a month probably, and I said specifically that any public citizen or concerned citizen that comes to this office requesting any information regarding any anything that should be public knowledge, will be given that information or that document, whether there's been a previous incidents with them, whether we're in current litigation or anything of the sort. Those were my specific.
Did you have something, Lori?
Yes, Nancy in our office took a phone call. She's the first to answer the phone, and had a client who asked if they were able to ask a question of our office because they were banned from the court or from the government center and wanted some information on property. So I don't recall who.
Are you aware of anybody being banned for any reason, Eric?
No. I mean, if something was going to be done like that, it would have to be done in writing, it would have to be posted. I'm not aware of anything like that. I can think of one criminal case where that was a rumor, but that was 35 years ago, that was before my time.
So it's easy to say nobody is banned?
I would absolutely say that.
All right. Okay.
Excuse me. I was told I was not allowed to.
Don, you need to go up to the speaker because I can't hear you.
Well, we can't hear anybody up there anyway, so.
I was told I was not allowed to come in and talk about CAFO stuff. And as one of the people who's trying to put $8 million of development in the county, we've got questions we've got to get answered. And to be told that we can't come in and ask those questions is rather insulting and probably illegal.
Who told you you were banned?
Denise.
I'll have to echo, my name's Carl Schenk. I will have to echo exactly what he said. Somebody's lying, Dan. And I don't know who it is, but it's not us. We were all told not to come in and not to discuss CAFO.
Who told you?
Like, please let us know.
Who told you not to come in here?
I was told by Denise that she could not talk to me in the office and I needed to leave. And it was shortly after a meeting between you two. I don't think it was you. I think you're a little too wound up, Dan. I have every right to come into a county office.
Yes, you are not banned.
So you're not violating my property rights, my rights as a citizen, as a taxpayer. Now, if I have a conditional use permit,
all right, we're getting off subject.
I need to put this on the record.
Then you can do that at public comment.
CUP, I have to communicate with the zoning office.
Okay,
I have
and you are not banned. Okay, so thank you very much. Please sit down.
Sit down.
Louis Johnson, Volin. I walked into the planning and zoning office and there were two other gentlemen in there. Denise looked up at me, Pat was not there. She said, I'm sorry, but I can't talk to you. And I said, what do you mean I can't talk to you? She said, I can't talk to you. Why? I was told neither Pat nor I could speak to you. Now, I don't know who would go in there. And I said, well, who told you? I can't tell you. So are you guys running the county or is somebody going behind your back and telling them? I'm a little disappointed because as far as I'm concerned, my civil rights have been violated.
Well, I'd say
and I am, yes, yeah, there is, because how can somebody say, oh, you can't come in? And if you do, you can't talk, or I can't talk back to you. You can tell me something, but you can't talk back. Is that how freedom works? I don't think so.
Let's settle down, Louis. Let's settle down.
We want to get it resolved. We want to get it.
I also was told, I had two constituents from the county that call me with planning and zoning issues. I called in, and on their behalf, because they couldn't get an answer, I was told the exact same thing. I couldn't converse with that office. So do you really think that somebody just made this up and told 7 people? I don't buy that.
I can tell you,
all right, Louis, you already spoke. All right. No, you're done. Sit down.
No, I'm not.
You are done. One more warning, and I'm going to have you removed.
Louis, you got the right at the end.
I did.
I'm Jeff Goodall, and I've also been told that I am banned from the Planning and Zoning Office as of today. Now, somebody is not telling the truth here. And it needs to come on out. And there's been other information that's been coming out, and it's documented. It's discrimination and it's slander. And you guys better be prepared.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, now, did you have anything else you wanted to discuss about that topic, Don?
I think we just have to bring a resolution to it. I think you said nobody's banned.
Gary, have you banned anybody?
No.
Don, have you banned anybody?
I have not.
I have not. Have you, Sherry?
No.
Joe, have you banned anybody?
Not.
All right.
You haven't banned anybody?
Next item on the agenda, commissioner updates. What? Kevin. Come on up, Kevin.
Kevin Huber, Mayfield Township. I've seen a lot of people get up and say something. They all referred to one lady here. Maybe she should be asked what happened.
Want to come up, Denise?
There was a conversation between Joe and Dan and Pat for about 3 hours on Friday. Dan left the office, and Joe had more conversation with Pat and I. That did get heated. And when Joe left, Joe said that we need to, how did you say it, Joe? We need to have the CAFO farmers or the CAFO people needed to be limited into our office. They do not always need to be up in the office.
I said nothing like that. Denise,
Oh, Joe.
What I said,
Joe.
What I said, Denise, was in regards to why we were there with the 3 emails that we got.
Why did you specifically say you need to remove yourself, Pat and Denise, from Eric Koenig?
No.
Oh, you made names, Jeff Goodall and Zane Williams. And
I
you
was talking about the meeting. Dan pointed out that there was a quorum of planning and zoning members at the previous meeting. When we went to executive session, we got 3 emails on this about.
Is that why Pat got written up?
About conversations that were
Because
happening.
three women, right here?
You better be careful.
Hey,
no,
Denise, no personal attacks
no,
here.
You
No.
came up to my desk and went,
Denise,
you have crossed the line. That's what he did to me on Thursday.
thank you, Denise.
Denise, what did you say
Just
to Dan then, the profanity?
I didn't say anything to Dan.
Here, that's all right. All right.
Profanity
Okay.
came out.
Thank you very much.
I think we need to drop it here.
All right, next
I
item
think
on
I
the
need to
agenda.
clear something
That's
here.
not transparency.
When I left, I said, Pat, when there's meetings, when we are in executive session or you are in a public setting, talking about planning and zoning issues with planning and zoning members and talking about your distaste for how things are going, I said you need to be careful about that at public settings, especially when
Denise,
there's a quorum
no,
of.
you're done. Sit down.
No, I'm not done.
Denise.
I am not done.
Please.
That was
Denise.
discussed between Pat and
Denise,
Joe. I was never in that
And then I'm
conversation.
going to have you removed. Please sit down.
Denise, you're on line.
Denise.
Please sit down. Thank you.
Transparency.
Come on. Come on.
Yeah, that's being
Come on.
childish, what you're doing.
Joe, did you finish?
Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, item number 16, commission updates. I have on the 24th, Sunday, February 24th, Commissioner Kettering is going to award the Citizen of the Year at the Elks Club. Did any of the other commissioners have anything else they'd like to update at this time?
No.
That meeting in Pier in the middle of March has been good meetings to go to. And I would recommend people going if they can.
Okay, is that, are you talking
The workshop.
the workshop?
Right.
Okay.
It's a
Thanks, John.
2-day or 2.5 day.
Okay.
I'm gonna plan to attend.
Gary, did you have anything?
No, I don't, right now.
Sherry, did
I've
you
got
have
something
anything?
coming up.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, item number 17, public comment. Anybody who'd care to make a public comment? We're going to do the people who wrote their name down first, and then if somebody else wants to comment, they're more than welcome. Come on up. We'll give you 3 minutes. Please, no personal attacks. Be respectful and no profanity.
Do you want to leave that on the podium, right?
Yeah, we sure can. First one up is John Gunderson. Would you care to? Okay. You don't want to?
I already did.
Okay.
I'm not going to double up.
Carl, do you want to make a public comment? You have 3 minutes.
Yes, I would like to say something. My name's Carl Schenk, Mission Hill, South Dakota. These applications have followed every rule. Dan, you could have sued us. You didn't. Joe, you didn't. We followed the rules. When you can't follow the rules, we have a dictatorship. And when you make them on the fly and have meetings about deciding who is going to get a pass on zoning violations and who isn't, it's not fair. They either apply to everybody or they apply to no one. Now, what's made America great is our ability to predict our laws. We've been able to attract capital into this country that other countries can't because we're not corrupt or just not as corrupt as others. Now, if you want citizens to make their investments in their own community, on their own farms, you need to follow the rules. We've done it. We have apartments that we're clapping about in condos being built by people from outside the community. We're investing in our own community. And you guys ran saying you're against it. How many people make this kind of investment in their community? I have a future son-in-law coming back, a daughter. What more would you want but for young people to come back to their farms? And if you think, Joe, you can be a row cropper the rest of your life and for the next generation, you're mistaken. Ethanol's dying, slowly, but it's dying. Corn production continues to go up, which is going to depress prices. Livestock and protein is where people are spending their money in developing countries. It's not grains, Joe. It's got to be some proteins. Livestock is the biggest consumer. So if you want modest-sized farms, drop the jealousy, drop wanting to be some kind of dictator on a board, and let people invest in their farms and their communities and follow the rules. They apply to everybody. You all screamed about transparency. Well, it doesn't look very transparent to me. 7 people you wanted to call a liar. 7 people. This is a small town. We got to drop this crap. Move on. You want to change the rules, change them. But we're all going to see each other at ball games in the grocery store, and if we can't develop our farms and our businesses, people will go elsewhere or people won't come here.
Time's up. Sandy Williams.
My name is Sandy Williams, and I'm live in Marindal Township. I want to compliment Commissioners Lose and Healy on their dedication to ensuring that county departments are in line and meet your expectations. My expectation is that you will apply the same scrutiny to every department. I've gone online and looked at the online situation for all departments. And my expectation is that you will apply the same fervor to other departments that you did to planning and zoning. They are one of many. Go online, look at the Yankton County website, and see. And if you can't do that, then where's the transparency?
Thank you. Louis Johnson.
Louis Johnson, Volin, South Dakota. Now, I understand the ground rules are I can't ask you any pointed questions and you can't reciprocate. Anyway, I'm hoping there's somebody here from the news media that will ask the questions. Last meeting that I went to, if it hadn't been for Eric, we wouldn't have found out about a secret meeting between some of the zoning violators and the state's attorney and somebody from the county commission. And I don't recall ever seeing in the minutes anywhere where that decision was made with a quorum. I thought we had to follow the rules. You know, if you're going to do something, somebody said, well, it must have been executive session. I said, executive session, if they make a decision, they have to come out and say they made a decision. They can't come out and say no decision was made. And like I said, if the question hadn't been asked at the planning and zoning meeting, nobody would have ever found out about the secret meeting.
Thank you. Patty Graham-Cow.
I had to come here to find out about what happened late last week. And no, I do not even have the capabilities all the time to send emails. I have tried to get internet through Dish, couldn't do it. I have tried to get, all I have is data, and if you would like to see my phone for my email, you may.
Did I tell you you could?
There was some finger pointing going on, and I want to make it very, very clear that I don't send emails. At the very best, you'll get a text, and if you don't call me, you probably won't find out about much, because I'm not technology savvy, and I don't have internet.
Thank you. Van Pace? This is, you're not on the...
Patty, Dan gave us a copy of something. Apparently, you sent him email, and that is why Pat got reprimanded. Okay?
Denise, sit down. Van, you're next. Stop it, ladies. Van, you have 3 minutes.
Van Pace. I don't generally come to a lot of the county commissioner meetings, but when I do, I'm here because I want to learn what's going on within the county. And I take very good notes. I'm a certified parliamentarian, so I also basically get somewhat, find it interesting when we're not always following parliamentary procedures in official meetings. Whoops. But I noticed tonight that there were several issues that were brought to the commissioners that didn't have resolution. There were a couple that were presented early on by Don Kettering, and then this issue that came up right now about the banning doesn't seem to have resolution. And I was kind of just curious why the county commissioners are not solving or resolving issues that are being brought to you publicly.
They can't answer.
Oh, certainly they can.
No, they can't.
We've been told we're not supposed to.
By who?
Comes down from the state. That was the rules and regulations. We're here to listen. Doesn't mean we can't respond in another meeting and direct answers then, but at our meeting, they're exactly right.
Okay, so it's a law an amendment that says that county commissioners cannot resolve.
All governmental meetings.
Not during public comment.
During public
They
comment.
just can't answer during public comment.
So then I'm going to ask you, how does it get resolved?
Get on the agenda.
Okay, so it has to be presented as an agenda item.
As far as this meeting's organized, this is a public comment section, and the commission is not going to answer. It's not a press conference.
Okay. Well, I was just curious, and being, you know, familiar with parliamentary procedures, I just found it quite interesting that there were several issues that were brought to the commissioners that had no resolution.
Thank you. Anyone else care to make a public comment at this time? Going once, going twice? Come on up. State your name, please.
My name's Jessica Gokin. I just want to probably add something to the agenda for next time. I know Don brought it up last meeting about the Class F and how he wanted the state's attorney to talk on it. State's attorney happened to not be here at that time. He brought it up again, wasn't here again. So I'm just hoping for, again, a resolution on that, because been to 2 meetings and we still haven't had anything. So thanks.
Anyone else? Going once, going twice? All right, we're going to close the public comment session. I already closed it, sir. I'm sorry. Entertain a motion to reopen public comment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Apologies,
Jared
I didn't
Huber
see-
from Mayfield Township. I'd like to see it on the agenda, talk a little bit more about this deal with people being banned. We need to know what's going on. If there is going back behind backs and everything else, we can't let it be going that way. So it really is something that needs to be addressed. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Anyone else care to make a public comment? Going once.
What were the other issues
Going
that Don had in the beginning of the meeting?
Yeah.
I do not recall. If you'd like to
If you
come
give me a
up-
second, I'm going to bring those up. Yep.
What's that?
Did you close public comment?
All right, anybody else, public comment? All right, I'm going to close public comment at this time. Now we have executive session.
Yep, before we go in there, Don did bring up 4 issues at the beginning. One of them was the band entering the courthouse, and we did touch on that. And I think we need to do more investigation on that before we can do any resolving with that issue. So that's where that stands. The first item was action on the CUP Class F. Having the attorney comment on that. Don, is that what you wanted to do?
Yes, and we visited and felt that Rob answered us in executive session, but the public didn't hear.
Exactly.
So at the next meeting, I will bring it up and ask Rob to tell
What he said.
told us.
Okay. Jessica? Yeah. All right. Extended absence, Pat. I don't know if we want to talk any more on that right now, Don?
No.
And then the last one was dismissed pending lawsuits, conflicts of interest. My notes might be a little sparse on that, Don, so help me out with that one.
I received several calls, as I said, and some of them were involving pending lawsuits that have been allegedly dismissed. And I just couldn't answer it, and I didn't know under what authority it was done, and if there were any potential conflicts of interest involved in dismissal.
Okay.
It's probably something we'd have to talk with the state's attorney on as well.
Well, can we comment if we know of anything that's been dismissed?
Ask Gary.
Public record.
Yeah, I know of no lawsuits that have been dismissed. None. That's what I know. So.
Last I was aware, we were proceeding with everything.
Anyone else know of anything that's been dismissed, or they've given direction to dismiss anything? All right.
All right. Next item on the agenda, executive session. Entertain a motion to go into executive session
So moved.
for personnel.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
So, second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. We had a executive session on personnel matter, and we decided that further investigation is needed pursuant to our discussion. Next item on the agenda is items for next meeting.
Okay, you want the job description and questionnaire for planning and zoning?
Yep.
Do you want the bridge yet or another meeting, the next meeting?
What was
Well,
that?
that sounded like they kind of wanted something.
Yeah, I think you should put it on there.
Yeah.
The next meeting?
Yep.
And if that's just for, do you want just to put bridge update or bridge priority or? for
Bridge
description?
priority maybe
Yeah,
makes
yep,
sense.
that's better, Patty.
And then you want the class F, correct?
Yes,
Correct.
please.
If the state's
Not an
attorney.
executive.
No.
that's
No.
just regular.
Yeah, that's what the state's attorney. Do we want to have the band personnel discussion too, or not? I know you wanted, that was mentioned to bring that back up, or did you want that, Don? You were you said that you wanted to mention something about band personnel. Did you want to talk about that next meeting as well, or not? Or should we just decide later?
Yeah, let's touch on it.
All right. Is there anything else for next meeting?
I do want to remind you that of the ditch meeting next Tuesday. Meal will be at 12 and the meeting will be at 1.
And is that
In
at
Medley.
Medley?
Next, what time?
Tuesday?
12.
You need quorum there, right?
If you want to eat, come be there at 12, but the meeting will start at 1.
Then we need quorum there.
I need at
correct?
least 3.
Okay. February.
What day is that? Help me.
Tuesday, 26.
26.
You got that chamber meeting done,
Yeah.
Dan?
You can go for me, Don.
To the chamber.
Yeah, you can do it.
I can make put me down for the ditch.
Yeah, put me down.
I'm probably not going to make it to that one. I have something
To
that
the
day.
ditch meeting.
Yeah, I don't believe I'll make it.
Gary, can
Are
you,
you speaking at?
You have to.
will you be there, Gary?
Tuesday.
Dan?
You have to
Tuesday.
go-
Are you speaking at the
We
state
have to
meeting?
have 3.
Sure.
Okay,
What time? You said
noon
noon, sure.
at Meckling for food,
If you want to eat, if not, the meeting's at 1.
okay?
No, I have no conflict.
Great, so that makes you and Joe and myself.
Yep.
Okay.
I can maybe meet it. I can maybe make it. I'll do my best to try. Any other items for next meeting? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?